And then
Yes.
Gradius Rebirth was like last year.
And Galaxies on GBA.
That was 2001, my friend.
Was it? Oh,
It's been a long time.
Whatever.
Or 2002, maybe.
I probably bought it in 2004. So.
Well, what was after 5? So 5 was 2005. I'm almost sure of that.
Basically, just Gradius Rebirth. and then Otomedius.
Okay.
You know what? There's Gradius Neo on cell phones, which is not that bad. I played it. It's not that bad a game.
Which cell
You're right on
phones?
that one.
Just, Java crap.
Oh, I see.
But it's actually, decent for a Gradius game.
Is it one of
on a
those
phone.
like constantly shooting things? You
Yeah.
have to, oh, good.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason to ever not do that.
No, I know. Yeah. Works on phones.
Yeah, I mean, the series has kind of faded away a bit. I feel like...
But it is still like one of the biggest series.
It's still Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it has a legacy.
I mean, you can count R-Type games on like 2 hands, or less than that. Less than
Can
2
you?
hands.
There are a shitload of R-Type games.
Not really.
1,
Unless
2,
you're counting
Third Lightning,
Operation Bitter Chocolate. Are you counting Operation Bitter Chocolate?
I don't count.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm scared
it's
now.
R-Type's Tactics 2. The subtitle is Operation Bitter
They're
Chocolate.
making a sequel to R-Type Tactics?
They sure are.
That's stupid. I'm sorry, I didn't like R-Type Tactics at all.
Well, Konami's got a press conference scheduled for E3, and I don't want to make any predictions here, but
I'm thinking Zone of the Enders 3 is actually going to be Gradius 6. They're going to combine them.
wow.
Oh, there was a Gradius sort of mini game in ZOE too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Gradius.
also like a very obvious reference in that you could pilot the Vic Viper, kind of.
So they're going
You
to
could
merge
also,
these two mythologies?
You could also play as the Vic Viper in one of the Air Force Delta games.
All right, yeah.
we know a lot of what publishers are showing. We don't know any 3DS games. Just gonna put that
throwing it
out there
out there,
too.
yeah.
There might be 3D
Well,
Gradius.
the inevitable Gradius Castlevania crossover game.
Yeah, if it's 3DS, it's probably going to be like a dentistry game where you're cleaning the teeth of a Moai head to hit that casual market.
They never smile, but if they did, it would be
Oh
disturbing.
yeah, Moai-kun.
I don't think the 3DS is going to launch as a casual machine. So if it's a launch game, it might be good.
Are we counting the Konami World games?
Sure.
Oh,
if you
Is
want
it
to.
full of Moai
Right,
heads?
in the end of Konami WiiWare World 1, you could jump into the Vic Viper and play an overhead shooting level, which is weird.
Briefly. Yeah.
This is what it looks like from above.
Yeah.
Still crap.
But yeah, I feel like Gradius games come out just frequently enough these days that people don't forget about the series.
Well,
but they've kind of stepped back from it, and I think that's good because there's only so much you can do with that genre these days. It seems like
I love 2D shooters, but there are enough Dojin games and shit out there that this is not necessarily a thing that should be.
And I don't know that Gradius has necessarily aged as well as it could. Like the complaint you had earlier, where you don't want to die because if you die,
it's
the
bullshit.
game becomes impossible.
No, this is where I shut it
advance
off and
on.
do something else.
I think a lot of long-standing game series that when you have like a lot of installments, you sort of stick to the same thing as opposed to like shorter ones, like R-Type, for example, doesn't come out that often, but the newer ones do have enough new stuff.
Well, we just have to take those familiar mechanics and work them in a way that's not frustrating. So I think we're about due for a Gradius MMO.
I mean, I do not
obviously.
I do not doubt the fact that the Gradius games are very, very repetitive, and that you know exactly what to expect from them every time you start the first stage of one.
You get something like Gradius 5, where someone comes in and puts some really clever twists on things.
Yeah.
And if we could get one of those every 5 or 6 years, that would be great. That would keep the series
5. Yeah.
Thinking of a clever twist on like a 2D shooter is a little bit tricky now.
It is.
I mean, just the ABBA games have made that hard at this point.
Yeah, but those tend to focus more on the bullet hell style.
Well, yeah.
And that's something that Gradius has never been. That's something I like about the series.
It felt like bullet hell for the time.
Not
5
really.
was
I mean,
definitely
even back then, like in the late 80s, people were starting to move more toward that more bullet hell style. Mm-hmm. But that's something that appeals to me about the series, is that it's not as meticulous and pattern-based as something like R-Type.
R-Type is pure pattern. I mean, it's like shit kills you out of nowhere constantly.
Yeah. But at the other extreme, you have, just like a spray of patterns filling the screen. Gradius is kind of in between those, and while the limitations on the power-up system can be frustrating,
it's more about reaction than memorization or recognition.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to know what's coming, but it's difficult to memorize the exact patterns for every stage.
Fair enough.
And the choice of
I actually think you characterized it there. That's good.
Oh, way to go, Jeremy. The choice of ships and the choice of armaments and the variable power-up system means that every time you play it, it can always be a little bit different if you don't feel like just sticking with the same the same setup every time.
I still like that bit in Life Force where the levels heal after you've like blown a piece of hole through their peritoneum or whatever the hell
You've
it is.
destroyed my meat, but my meat will heal.
Yeah,
there's a level like that in Gradius Rebirth, which is just a mishmash of all sorts of levels. Gradius games anyway. But
that's a weird one because it's like a sequel to the MSX games,
right?
And I didn't even know that those really existed until a guy named Nicola Nomali started writing like very gushing apologias for them.
Yeah, the MSX Nemesis games have actual stories and stuff, and like where the arcade ones did not.
Yeah, apparently
besides
there's
like
a guy
defeat
named
the Bido Empire.
Yeah, no, there's like a dude named James Burton who became like he was the pilot of the Vic Viper, and he flew around and he blew things up, and they made him the Emperor. And then years later, like the Empire went back in time to try to blow up his planet before he was born, but they caused the situation that orphaned him and turned him into the Vic Viper pilot in the first place. It's causality in motion.
And there's the persistent villain, Dr. Venom.
I didn't know about Dr. Venom.
Yeah,
I thought he was just a G.I. Joe character.
No, Dr. Venom.
Damned.
Quick mention of Gradius 5. I do think it's the second best favorite of mine, aside from 2, because Trasher was brought in, and I guess they have some help from G-Rev, which is another shooter developer. So he had a whole bunch of talent just
Gradius All-Stars
descending upon Gradius and just turning it into something really, really fresh. And you could, the main mechanic of that one was like customizing the movements of the options, the drone ships and stuff like that. And it was
with the right stick, yeah.
Right, yeah. And it was a little bit more bullet helly just because treasure game, I guess. But yeah, good stuff.
I still really want to play Gradius Symphony of the Night-ish Metroidvania game now.
Yeah.
Just the thought of that is got me a bit
I'm
stiff.
with you there.
I want to play an overhead RPG where you play as the pilot of the Vic.
You can do that. We'll play 3D Dot Game Heroes. And
well,
make a
there
little
was
Vic Viper
Sigma
game.
Star Saga.
Yeah,
maybe that's
there's a
that's
really
the closest thing.
Yeah, there's a very
that game was so close to being good.
It was tantalizingly close.
Yeah.
There's a very remote Gradius spin-off called Cosmic Wars for Famicom. It's basically a strategy RPG set in the Gradius universe.
And there was a Twinbee RPG for PlayStation.
That's right. Not quite the same thing. But
I'm just saying.
I don't even like Twinbee that much. I'll just admit that right now. I don't like juggling those fucking bells. I can't stand that. Sorry.
Fuck bells.
Yes.
That's Parodius too, though. I mean, they show up there also.
It's just no. It's not as bad. I don't know. But it's like the bells mixed with the Gradius power-up art. So. It settles me.
I think
Parodius does.
I think my favorite Gradius game is actually Life Force for NES, just because.
Because I agree, but
because I played a lot of it, I got really good at it. I could one life it after a while. But what I really like about it is that when you play with 2 players, it drops the punishing element of the Gradius power-up system. Actually, I guess single player does that too.
Well, it doesn't give you any more power-ups, though. I mean, you're kind of fighting over those things. But then again, after halfway through the first stage, you pretty much are
basically,
there.
when you die, the screen, it doesn't send you back to a checkpoint. It just keeps going, and your options drift off the screen. And if you come in fast enough, you can grab up your options again. Yeah. So it kind of levels the playing field, and you're not reduced to helpless baby begging to be pummeled and annihilated.
Like the mainline Gradius games do that. They just straight up send you back.
Right. And I think taking out that checkpoint system, I don't think it necessarily makes the game completely a cakewalk. It's still a pretty tough shooter.
But you have a chance to grab your options and not go all the way back.
But it makes it fair. I wish Gradius games would at least give you the option to play that.
That's an excellent point, actually. I didn't really realize that was kind of almost unique in the series for doing that.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's completely unique.
Those little bastards that come from behind in Gradius 3 to grab your options, fuck those guys.
Yeah, I agree.
I cannot deal with those. I mean, really, if I were to do like a top 10, screw you guys, you can go to hell and never come back kind of enemies.
Sounds good. Go do it.
I guess. Apparently that's my job.
Right, a feature, Sharky.
Gradius 3 was really where they went kind of over the top with the dick moves, I think.
Yeah. That was actually a good dick move because they did telegraph it, and it was just enough to panic you, and you could usually avoid it, but I hate those little bastards.
Yeah, I mean, they were not impossible to avoid, but you would get so freaked out because my options that
you usually
get
killed by something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's psychological warfare at its best.
And there's the bubble levels.
Well, I like the bubble level on Super Nintendo just because it was so slow that it was just like, this is my break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course Gradius 3, after being possibly the hardest Gradius game of all.
Like
has like the most completely spineless final boss. It's just like, am I thinking right? Yeah, that's the one that has like a final boss where you basically go in and destroy it without being shot back at all.
Actually, that's almost a recurring thing for Gradius. I mean,
yeah, but
that
game,
Force, that
like,
was the same.
The disparity was just preposterous.
Was it just like an infant in a crib that you shoot?
I think it's a brain.
It's like the games are kind of bookended by these really easy bosses.
So. Yeah,
that is kind of weird. Yeah, Gradius games just aren't much for final bosses. It's like, you made it this far. Go on, have a freebie on us.
Now you'll have this really hard escape sequence.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're down to one life. Haha.
Well, they were going for a Shadow of the Colossus effect, but it just didn't work out.
Because they didn't have Shadow of the Colossus yet to like. Yeah.
You become the helpless brain at the end.
Wait, spoiler! I haven't beaten the game yet.
Oh.
I figured that out anyway, just based on what other people said.
Have you not beaten the game yet? What the hell's wrong with you?
I haven't played it. I haven't had time. You know, time? Something I don't have.
Yeah. Well, you know that HD version's coming.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Someday.
So, Automedius was the last DS game, and that is supposedly coming out in America soon. I guess maybe at E3 we'll see some confirmation of that.
It'll be the press conference. It'll be the highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. Gosh,
Kojima will come out on stage to present Automedius.
Yeah. They'll be like, there's this new Castlevania too, but we know what you're here for.
Like I said, it's not a great game. It's pretty decent for a Gradius sort of game. I just don't like the fact that there's tons of power-ups and that they can all be leveled up as well, pretty much. And it's just like sort of overwhelming. And you just sort of, a lot of different characters too. It's like you don't really know what to settle on, at least for me. But there are lots of extra artwork you can unlock, and that has some bikini pictures, and it's good fun.
Of Ammon 5?
Yes, even.
Oh, yeah.
Of the Vic Viper?
No, the Vic Viper.
Well, the Vic Viper is a girl in this game.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, she's all bent over, and she's actually bonded with her twin sister, and that's how they get the double hull thing.
That's Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, I was getting mixed up. I'm sorry,
but you're not that far off.
Something else entirely.
Vicky Viper.
So yeah, I know. Look forward to it if you are like me and like Gradius games a lot.
This was a.
I'm glad you invited Ray for this.
I know.
Yeah.
It was a conscious decision.
Yeah.
But yeah,
this was on Retronauts again. Thanks so much. I know it's been a long time.
Weren't you here last time?
Yeah,
probably.
I don't remember. When was the last episode?
Yes, I was.
I think I was on the last episode.
I think all of us were.
What the hell it was either?
It was a terrible
I think it was the
joke,
same bunch.
I don't know. I don't remember things from one week to the next.
What was the last one? Jesus.
I think it was 3D games.
This is what we have listeners for.
Yes. Yeah. It was 3D games, and it was the
listeners, or we could just pull up the web page. Oh, look,
the same assholes. They could scroll down 2 inches and find out.
I know our best friends are all best fans. Excuse me, are also archivists. So you know, they probably have wikis about us and everything that we don't know about.
You'd have to
care
about this stuff. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's like those PR people's files on us.
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't even want to know.
I do.
I'm sure they know what your favorite kind of drink is.
Yes, they do. I've gone to press parties and it's like, hey, here's a flask. It's like, what the fuck is this?
That's exactly what you love.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you have that written down somewhere. That's really horrifying. I'm going to go home and drink myself to death.
Fortunately, no one's ever done that to me.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, mostly they just pretend.
Well, that's because you
know
don't drink. They probably have a note on there that says, you know, white wine spritzer.
Don't be
Here's
insulting.
a tonic water.
Anyway.
So we hear you like old video games.
We used to make old video games.
Here's a copy
not
of
anymore.
Sesame Street 1, 2, 3. I picked up at Goodwill. Hope you like it.
Now that's just kind of Chris Kohler.
It's got the ABC and the 1, 2, 3 on one cartridge. Big Bird talks.
I don't know what these brown spots are, but
I think that means it's old.
Later.
It's not a reprint.
I'm sorry. I had fun.
Great. I'm glad you could all join us to talk about things that are 25 years old.
This was glorious.
Does that mean we're officially old now that Goonies at least is 25 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's sad.
I've been old for a long time.
Actually, what made me feel really old today, I was at Walgreens. I was walking down the snack aisle and I looked, and there were Oreos that were Dairy Queen Blizzard flavored Oreos, and up in the corner it said 25th anniversary of the Blizzard. I was like, really?
Wow.
Do we need to commemorate the 25th anniversary of a snack? And oh my God, I remember when Blizzards were new. I'm old. This is terrible.
I thought they'd be older, honestly.
Nope. Apparently 1985 was the year
of the year of the Blizzard.
Yeah, goddamn.
I guess that was like when America finally came out of recession and everyone was like, let's make new stuff.
It's a banner year for innovation.
Well, that's the NES year. It's when
NES,
Yeah.
Goonies movie,
yeah.
other
Back
things.
to the Future.
Blizzard.
Back to the Future. Yeah.
Back to the Future.
Yeah.
I downloaded a
Probably
Commodore
some Bruce
64
Springsteen
game
or something. I don't know.
As part of Shame Night, I downloaded a Commodore 64 game called Back to the Present. I'm really looking forward to that.
Is that like a Christmas game where Santa is...
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah. Okay, anyway.
I guess we're done.
We're done. Next week, E3. Not that we'd have a podcast next week anyway, because we're bi-weekly. Week after, we'll probably talk about...
I'm going to do a special show.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are you doing the whole thing? I thought that was going to be like a segment.
No, I'm recording a special E3 podcast. Not really about E3, but I'll have a couple of special guests there, and it should be really fun.
I'm off the hook. Ray does all our podcasts now. It's awesome.
Yay!
Thanks, Ray. So I guess I'll be back in a month, assuming I'm still alive. So I'll record stuff then. Yeah.
Stop dying. What's wrong with you?
No, Goonies never say die.
Yeah.
Say it. Say the word. I'm just an actor.
Just looking through some of the news stories that Carl did make it into Carl's news roundup.
Yeah.
Just this one you might be interested in. Headline: Woman says partner ran off to become vampire.
Yeah.
And it says a young mother says her partner has dumped her to become a vampire. Rebecca Roberts from Somerset says Matthew Barrett fell for a blood-worshipping woman in a US cult. The 23-year-old mother says he began shaving all his body hair, dressed in black, and used Rebecca's lipstick to redden his eyes. Rebecca caught him performing weird blood rituals in front of his computer at night, cutting himself to prove commitment. She said, "I thought it was just a hobby." Everyone's got a right to one. I was pleased he'd found an interest.
Brilliant.
This is apparently from The Sun. Apparently he's left. He's gone to America. He's living in this Ohio-based cult. But it's the last bit where she's been asked whether or not, if he came back, would she take him back?
Sure.
And this is where I wonder if the journalist, you know how journalists are supposed to just report the news, be objective.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe the journalist here has maybe had some interference.
Made the quote better for them than... Go on.
Because it says, I never thought this would take over his life. Now, if he came back, I'd say fangs, but no fangs.
Oh, dear!
I can't believe. Imagine you're the woman, Rick.
Okay.
And I've come round.
You're the journalist.
I'm the journalist, and I've come in and I've said, I can't read about this.
All I have to do is not say that thing.
You've come. I understand you're obviously quite upset. Your husband's gone
gutted.
off. If he came back, would you take him back?
Definitely not.
Right.
Really,
What would you say to him then if he came back?
Just get lost.
Right, but
I'm really pissed off with you.
Would you perhaps say something a bit more pithy?
Not in this situation, no.
You're upset?
He cuts himself, he drinks blood, he's left me.
Sure,
Sod off. I'm not interested, mate.
Because I tell you what.
Go on.
I mean, I like what you said there, but I wonder if we could condense that a bit more. If he came back, would you say...
Go away.
Would you say something... Would you ever say something like, thanks, but no thanks?
No, because it makes it flippant, because I'm really angry.
I know you're annoyed.
And I'm upset, so I wouldn't say... I certainly wouldn't say thanks. I might say no thanks.
But what if you sort of said it, like, aggressively, like you were giving him the finger? Thanks, but no thanks. Like, you didn't really mean
sort
it.
of sarcastically?
Sarcastically. Would you possibly say
I might say thanks, but no thanks, and that'll be it. And that's and I'd leave it there. I'd never change that.
Sure.
I'd never change those words.
Can I ask you a question?
Go on.
Do you like puns?
Hate them.
Right.
I don't like
It's
Countdown. I don't like QI. I don't like any of those posh Cambridge, Oxford types. I hate puns.
If you had to say thanks but no thanks in the form of a pun, what would you maybe say?
I wouldn't. I never would.
Right.
I'd say thanks but no thanks. I would, I mean, I feel embarrassed that I'd even say that because I don't think I would even say thanks but no thanks.
Okay.
But if I did go that far, I'd leave it there.
Sure.
So,
have you ever noticed, as I have, the similarity between the word thanks and fangs?
Not really.
It's very similar.
Not
Thanks,
really.
fangs,
F-T-H, there's a K.
Fangs very much.
G. It's A and S. Well, the A, the N and the S, but that's about it.
Would you agree it sounds marginally similar?
Yeah,
Is it possible you might one day say fangs but no fangs?
I wouldn't know.
Right. I could put that though, could I?
But don't say I said it.
Right.
I mean, yeah. Fangs but no fangs.
Yeah.
Carl is still buzzing about these conjoined twins.
It's just, one of them of course had to be, because one of them was sort of shorter than the other, and had to be sort of wheeled around on a kind of trolley. thing by the other.
This isn't Molly and Dolly, is it?
No, they're not called. One's called Reba. I forget what the other one's called. Sheena, maybe, or something like that. Do you remember, Carl?
No, I wasn't that impressed with the names. It's just...
yeah. So you immediately put them out of your mind. Those are rubbish names. I'm just, forget, Carl, forget them. They're gone.
Were they British or American?
Yeah, American.
Oh, because I've seen some American ones on Jerry Springer.
Bizarrely, one of them was apparently a country music star.
This is Molly and Dolly.
Well, they're not called
the
Molly
one that
and
joined
Dolly.
at the Oi. The one that joined.
But they're not. I think you've made up the Molly and Dolly.
No, it was on Jerry Springer. There's a little one that sits on a seat, and the other one carries it round, her around. And
they're not called Molly and Dolly.
There was something like that.
They're called. Well, we know that one of them's called Reba, and I forget the other one.
One of them's a country and western singer or something.
Yeah, and but she was saying, "Yeah, I've just made a movie. It's coming out shortly in theatres."
Is your sister in it?
Yeah, and the other one said, "I'm not involved." It's utterly bizarre because they live there. They work so hard to live their lives separately.
Yeah, they say it's all. Yeah,
exactly.
of course.
So,
yeah,
they try not to. So she's talking about her music career, and the other one's sort of not taking any kind of credit for it, which is nice.
It's weird though, because when she was singing as well, the other one just stands there. She doesn't join in. She doesn't sort of dance.
Offer backing vocals.
Do you know what I mean? Make a group out of it.
Yeah, a duo.
Yeah, well, but it seems like we're sort of being horrible, but we're not.
No, we're not.
I mean,
no, we're laughing at Carl's amazement at this phenomenon. Taking the mickey.
The really weird thing about all this, right? And it's annoying because you were saying about, what should have Trisha have asked and all that.
Yeah.
But one of them mentioned that one of them was adopted, and the other one wasn't.
Don't talk rubbish.
No, seriously. I didn't understand it, right?
Of course you didn't.
And then Trisha sort of said, well, let's have a chat, and they were like, no, don't want to go into that.
What do you mean one was adopted?
That's what he said, one of them... don't quiz me on it, but that's what was said.
Hello there, I'm a multi-millionaire, and I've just seen your orphanage. I'd love to adopt one of your children.
You'd like to adopt one?
I'd love to adopt a children, because I've got loads from around the world, so I'd love to adopt one. I'd give you $10,000 towards your orphanage.
We'll speed it through then, yeah.
Okay.
We've actually got 2 left.
I only need one. I'm only interested in one. Yeah, I don't need any more. Don't need any more.
They're sisters.
I know it would be tragedy to break them up, but I really only need one.
Now break it up. There's the rub. You see.
Sure. Because you just need the one. There's $10,000 now. You can have that. I'll sign it now. But I don't want to discuss it further.
I'll bring her around.
Brilliant.
Okay. Ding dong.
Hi. Yeah. Brilliant. You brought my kid round.
Yeah. There she is. There.
That's a joy.
Yeah. Okay. Just standing next to a bush.
Yeah. Do you want to? Can you bring her out?
No. There's nothing behind the bush. So you just want. I just want to be able to walk 360 degrees round her. Do you want her or not?
Yes. I can't believe it. What's that little trolley? She's talented.
Oh, dear.
You're talking nonsense, Carl.
Reading the paper there,
Yeah,
Steve?
well, I don't normally read the paper, but I was having a glance through the Daily Express. Does anyone read the Express?
Well, you do at the moment, look.
Well, true.
Live on air.
Yeah.
Read it out, and then about 400 people will know what's in it.
I was obviously attracted by this little news item, gun raid by 3 Saddams. 3 armed men...
Oh, they're up to their old tricks again, are they?
Yeah. 3 armed men wearing Saddam Hussein masks were on the run last night after robbing a corner shop. The raiders threatened the worker with a handgun and knife, ordering him to open the till, blah, 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 get money out. And it says that they also...
2009. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Retronauts. After a long hiatus, as we stopped and shuffled and reorganized, this episode is I believe episode 68 of Retronauts, and that's about 60 more than I ever thought we would record. So, yeah, the podcast has been kind of in a funny state for a long time, mainly in that I'm not really comfortable hosting it and not really happy with the way it's been going. It's never been quite what I wanted it to be, et cetera, et cetera. And so we've kind of stopped and rethought how we're approaching it. And you may like it, you may not. It seems like the standard for podcasts for video games has been to get about 4 or 5 people to sit around a table
and shout at each other and tell everyone that things suck. And, that's fine, but I'm not really good at being the ringmaster for the Jackass Circus, as we call it. And so we're kind of ditching the large-scale format and moving Retronauts to a smaller, more intimate approach where it's broken into little segments about different topics. That way we don't have to have 4 or 5 people who all know about one topic and can extemporize on it for an hour and a half. Instead, I'll be talking, or someone else will be talking to 1, maybe 2 people at a time about specific topics, specific subjects that those people know a lot about and can say something interesting about, and keep it focused, keep it sharp, keep it going quickly, and hopefully have a lot less, stupidity. So anyway, bear with me. I'm kind of new at this, and we're sort of learning as we go. But I'm hoping that you'll like this new episode format, and that it works out okay, and that it's not a gigantic disaster, and that it can keep Retronauts going for a long time to come. So anyway, let's get rolling this week. As I mentioned in the teaser, the intro, we have 4 topics this week. The first of which, I've been joined in the studio by Ray Barnholt to talk about the Game Boy's 20th anniversary. Hi, Ray.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for inaugurating this exciting new venture.
Yeah.
And there's so much to talk about in Game Boy that this will not be the only Game Boy retrospective we do on the podcast by any means. But I thought we'd get started with you because I think by far you're the biggest Game Boy fan in the office. So definitely you seem to have the strongest affection for it.
Mm-hmm. I like to think so.
So where does this deep-seated affection come from?
Where does it come from? Well, I mean, I'm a gamer.
But a lot of gamers, I don't know, even now, like they kind of look at Game Boy as sort of a novelty, something that wasn't really to be taken seriously.
Yeah, that's true, and that is really weird. And even sometimes I do that too. But the fact is, like, I wrote this on our blog this week that it really is just kind of like the most nostalgic game system for me, just because so many good memories were attached to it. Mm-hmm. And the fact that what I wrote about was like, getting a game and going to the mall and then buying it and then taking it back to the car, and where you have the Game Boy already and just like playing it for the rest of the day that way. I mean, that thing really sticks in my mind. And it was just, I don't know, so just something about the whole life of it just like really just takes me back to that period in the early 90s.
Yeah, I have to say I missed out on having a Game Boy back when Game Boy was a viable platform. My first Game Boy system that I owned a Super Game Boy for a Super NES, but the first actual handheld I owned was a Game Boy Color. Like, I got one of those day and date with the Japanese launch because I figured I finally should catch up with it. But as much as I wanted one back in the day, I couldn't afford one. I just didn't have the money. I was always scrimping and saving just to get NES games. So I definitely couldn't afford a second system with a second set of games. So I don't have those memories attached to it. But even so, like, I've somehow turned into this person who mostly games on portable systems now. Yeah. I turned on my Xbox 360 last night and realized, like, the most recent game I played was, aside from revisiting Mass Effect a few months ago, was Grand Theft Auto 4, which I played last June. I just don't play on TV-based systems anymore because I don't know, I hate being tied to a television for that long.
Yeah. So, I understand that, yeah. I mean, I play on everything, but definitely just portable games in general just like really entranced me with just like the general coolness of it ever since the Game Boy first came out. And so it was always something that was just like so cool. It didn't matter if it was, the Game Boy or the Game Gear or the Lynx, no matter how crappy they were. It's just like, wow, this is portable and I can take this anywhere I want.
I was deeply jealous of people who owned Game Boys back in the day. And actually my brother had one, even though he didn't really like video games that much, because he had a friend whose father was a very wealthy doctor, and his friend's father bought his friend a Game Boy and decided, well, I should get one for Adam, my brother, also, just so that his friend could have someone to link up to and play Tetris against.
Well, that's a good reason.
So he basically got a free Game Boy and never let me use it, and it made me very sad because I wanted it, and he never actually made that much use of it.
Yeah.
What a waste.
Speaking of the Game Link, I don't think I ever used that, really. Despite, at least knowing, at least one other kid who had it. I don't think we ever had the same games except Tetris.
Yeah, it's weird because that was one of the real innovations of the Game Boy. I mean, I've written a lot about how the hardware that was in Game Boy was extremely dated even by 1989. I mean, it used a Z80 processor, which was I think first designed in 1974, and by by 1989 that was old news. But that's part of Gunpei Yokoi's his whole philosophy of the lateral thinking of withered technology, use inexpensive, well-known devices, and be creative around those. And even so, the link cable was something you really just didn't see in any game system at the time. You didn't really have the ability to link consoles together because, of course, there wasn't really that much reason for it. But even PCs, like the Atari ST, I think was kind of infamous for being able to network through the MIDI port, which is where MIDI Maze came from.
Yeah.
But
and then Faceball came out on Game Boy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it was kind of this natural progression, but really, aside from the Atari ST, and who the hell actually had 16 Atari STs to link together? Realistically, that was something you did in a computer lab or something, and there probably weren't that many ST computer labs. Yeah. But the Game Boy had that same function, and it was right there, and I don't think people really understood it or appreciated it that much at the time.
Yeah.
I remember Nintendo tried to make a big deal out of F1 Race.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that most people took away from that was, well, it comes with this connector thing, but everyone has to bring their own cable, and that just seemed cumbersome and expensive and frustrating to people. And I don't know anyone who ever actually linked up 4 people to play F1 Race together.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if I know anyone who actually owned F1 Race, but
me neither. I just got it in this pile of games that I missed out on. I just finally got F1 Races.
How is it?
I was just playing it last night, and I kind of saw it. It's kind of weirdly dramatic in its presentation. I can't really articulate this quite yet, but it's just the way that, I don't know, the speed of it and the way to flash things on the HUD. I don't know. It just it seems to attempt to want to be a little bit dramatic in its racing, but again, I can't really explain it that well.
Racing is basically about moving back and forth while you travel in pretty much a straight line. Yeah. So anything they could do to spice that up, I'm sure was a noble effort. I think it's interesting. I didn't remember or didn't realize, I guess, that the original Game Boys came in multiple colors. Until I started doing research for this. Yeah, I thought that was all Game Boy Pocket. I associate Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Color with multicolored systems, but you have a green Game Boy right there.
Uh-huh.
Isn't that a little too much green with the system and the screen?
Yeah, it probably is. It is a different shade.
That's true. You have a kind of a cool bluish green there, and the screen is a warmer green, kind of a pea soup green.
Green is our favorite color, right?
It is. So, it's a fine color.
Not so much the yellowish green of the screen.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that's something that people look back on now, and even though they sort of hated it back then, and even in 1989, people were like, wow, the screen really sucks.
Yeah.
There's kind of this sort of kitschy nostalgia for the limitations of the Game Boy. And the Game Boy camera, the device that Nintendo released in 1995 or so?
No, it was 97.
Oh, really? It was that late?
Yeah.
Despite how limited that is almost iconic in its own right. I mean, Neil Young created an album cover, the album Silver and Gold, with a Game Boy camera photo. That's ridiculous.
Story, yeah.
But I mean, there's just kind of this retro appeal to the Game Boy. It was retro when it came out, and it's just become even more charmingly retro. To me, Game Boy actually feels more almost more iconically video game-ish than even the NES does, which I don't know if that's a popularly held philosophy, But
maybe, yeah. That sort of parlays into my feelings too, like what I mentioned before.
So it's weird because I've sort of had a turnaround in the way I look at Game Boy games. Like, I think even a few years ago, I wrote an article for 1UP back in the early days before anyone was reading the site, and said, most Game Boy games haven't held up very well. But I've actually started going back recently and playing through some old Game Boy games, and I have to eat my words because actually a lot of these games really do hold up well.
Yeah. But at the same time, a lot of them don't. Because
that's true. But
because in the early days, it was all puzzle games, right? It was all trying to be like Tetris again. So you had all these dinky puzzle games from third-party developers, and they were all like 500 variations on Sokoban,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Sokoban is good.
It is, yeah. Just not 500 versions.
There was kind of, like, with every new kind of technology, every new system, there's always sort of a learning curve. Like, it took a while for people to realize with the DS, not every game has to have touchscreen controls and dual-screen gameplay and wireless connected game around it. That's fine. And with Game Boy, I think that everyone had a learning curve in that they wanted the Game Boy to be the portable NES, and so they tried to make games that had NES caliber graphics and NES style gameplay. And so you ended up with like the first Ninja Turtles game, Follow the Foot Clan, where you had these gigantic turtle sprites on the screen, and basically you couldn't see what was happening around them. And when you combine that with the complete blurriness of the passive matrix screen, like I tried playing that game when it was new because a friend had it and brought it on the bus to school, and I hated it. It was an incomprehensible mess because you have like huge sprites and you can't see anything that's happening around it because of the blur and the proportions.
Well, I loved it, but I'm also younger. Yeah, I'm totally burned out on that game now. That's how much I played it. But
yeah, I think at least in the early days, the most successful games were the ones that said, maybe we can't give people gigantic NES quality sprites, but we can give them a good NES quality game experience by working within the limitations of the system. So you had Super Mario Land, where Mario was tiny. You had actually the Bionic Commando remake that Capcom did, where they took the NES game and basically transported the entire game to Game Boy, but they scaled down the proportions of everything. So
and they redid
so
the
Rad
art.
Spencer is like, he's a little midget, but it plays really, really well because you have enough information around so that you're never swinging into an empty pit. And it's interesting because NST remade Bionic Commando later, did kind of a sequel called Elite Forces for Game Boy Color, and like they kind of ignored all the lessons of the Game Boy that had come before and gave people big animated sprites. And the game wasn't really that much fun to play because you kept swinging into yawning chasms without realizing where you were going.
Yeah, and plus their go-go boots didn't really.
Oh, I really liked her leg warmers. I thought that was like a sign of a good future soldier. Like, you got to keep those shins warm.
Leg warmers on these tall giraffe legs. Great. But no, I do agree that there were a lot of really good Game Boy games that were released, throughout the whole life from, up until Pokemon, even like right before that. Like, Mole Mania is one of those favorites everybody talks about, and it's like it was just totally under the radar, but it was really one of Nintendo's best games for that platform.
Yeah, and I still haven't played that, but I've heard it compared a lot to Donkey Kong 94, which I first played shortly before Mario vs. Donkey Kong came out. And I kind of spoiled myself because it's so much better than Mario vs. Donkey Kong. I mean, Mario vs. Donkey Kong is a fine game, but Donkey Kong 94, I didn't expect what it was, which is the first 3 or 4 levels of Donkey Kong that then branch out into this crazy, gigantic experience full of like 100 puzzle levels.
It's almost like another Mario Land.
Right. Yeah, it was an amazing game. And the really great thing is that you have all of your abilities from the start, but you don't really realize it because you think, oh, it's Donkey Kong, so I just have to play with Mario making these simple little jumps. But then you go back after you've played through some of the levels and you realize, oh, I can do a backflip on this level. I can do like these crazy maneuvers that I shouldn't be able to do in the first level of Donkey Kong, but I'm doing it.
It's good training for Mario 64.
Yeah, and another weird thing is just as I've been writing about Game Boy, I've been kind of linking up game releases to the console experience, the console games that I'm familiar with. And I didn't realize that Mario Land 2 actually came out after Super Mario World.
Yeah.
Which explains a lot about some of its game design, I think.
Yeah.
And like you said, Donkey Kong came out shortly before Mario 64 and probably was developed in tandem with Mario 64. So it seems to have some similar items, similar ideas, like the backflip and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, for me, it's almost this kind of alternate history of gaming that I was aware of, but not really involved in. And so it's been really interesting to go back and explore it and sort of pick up on all the games I missed out. Like I've been playing Mario Land 2 for the first time, and what I didn't realize is that it's basically a Wario Land game that happens to have Mario in it.
Yeah.
Like, it really doesn't feel like your typical Mario game, but it definitely feels like the Wario Land games, except that instead of, controlling Wario and being basically invincible and being folded and spindled and mutilated and set on fire and turned into a zombie or whatever like Wario does, you're just like running and jumping and shooting fireballs.
Yeah.
So it's like...
And you can die.
Yes, and you can die. You do die a lot. But it's kind of like playing one of those Flash games where they mash up like Mega Man and Ghost and Goblins or something, and it's like you're playing with the wrong character in the wrong series, and it's kind of interesting because I realized that actually the Wario Land games evolved out of that, but to me it's almost like, oh, I'm playing as the wrong character in these other games that I know better.
Yeah. Well, that never occurred to me because, again, I was right there when it came out, and so I was like, oh my god, it looks just like Mario World on the Game Boy. I have to have this. So it's like, yeah, to me, it's just like a portable Mario World.
Right.
So, and then Wario Land came out, and that was just like a whole different thing. And Wario Land was like the second coming of Donkey Kong because like Mario was a total dick in Wario Land.
Yeah. Actually, in Mario Land 2, you kind of seen signs of that because it's like you're in Mario Land and there's like a giant statue of Mario. So I don't know. I think the official Nintendo Power cartoons were depicted the fact that Mario basically was a jerk to Wario when they were kids. So of course Wario is like twisted and horrible because it's all Mario's fault.
And Mario's totally oblivious too in these comics. He's like, "What? Okay, sorry, Wario."
I've heard or read interesting theories about how these games are Nintendo R&D ones. Like sign of rebellion about how they resented having to make Mario games. I don't know how much of that is true, but I can see how you could read that into it.
It was a playful hate for them.
Well, yeah. I don't really think there was resentment in there, but at the same time, it is kind of interesting because those games actually kind of take Mario back to the to Donkey Kong Jr., where he was the villain. Yep. There's a little bit of darkness to Mario. The seamy underbelly of the Mushroom Kingdom.
When you see him through someone else's eyes, it's something else entirely.
Yep. Like, how does Bowser think of him? Gotta hate him.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I do want to say is that Zelda Link's Awakening was so good. And it really sort of almost proved that the Zelda games became the best ones in my opinion. Until like Minish Cap, which I sort of skipped out on, didn't hear that was that great anyway. And Phantom Hourglass didn't really do anything for me either. But, the 8-bit Game Boy ones were just spectacular. And just like, again, just reinforce the fact that portable gaming was so awesome to me. And just the fact that now I can play Zelda wherever I go. And it may not be as challenging or as long as the Link to the Past was or something, but like that.
It still felt like a very substantial adventure.
Yeah.
That was one of the few Game Boy games I did play back in the day because I got a Super Game Boy and that was one of like 2 games I bought for it.
Yeah.
And I need to go back and revisit it. I don't know what it was, but as much as I liked A Link to the Past, I played Link's Awakening and was just like, this is the best Zelda game I've played yet. It's really amazing. And I don't know if it was the ability to jump or just the fact that was the first game in which the dungeons really took on a true puzzle feel to them. But there was just something about it. I think also it just kind of had a more lighthearted feel. Yeah. But I don't know. There's this certain indefinable character about Link's Awakening, and I know I'm not alone. A lot of people really do think it's one of the best Zelda games, if not the best.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with just like the fact that your nose is pressed up against it closer than it would on the Zelda game. It just feels sort of weirdly bigger. In a way.
It does.
More adventurous.
You look at Kololand Island's map now, and it seems really tiny, but at the time it felt like it was this vast world inside a tiny screen.
Yeah.
I think that was a lot of the appeal of games like that on Game Boy. Like, how can the screen be so tiny, yet the adventure so vast?
Yeah.
So I take it from what you said about the 8-bit Zelda portable games, you did like the Oracles games?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
okay.
Quite a bit.
There seems to be a lot of dislike for them, actually, but...
I haven't noticed anything.
I liked, which one was it? Oracle of Ages. No, Oracle of Seasons I thought was really, really great. It was kind of a revisiting of the original Zelda. Oracle of Ages was a little too fussy for me with all the time travel, but they were both really solid, and they worked together well.
Yeah, Seasons was great. It was the more traditional one, and so it was kind of like a second coming of Link's Awakening in that way. But Ages was a little bit... it was weirder. You might say it was a little bit closer to Majora's Mask, though not entirely.
I would say it was closer to Ocarina of Time, actually, with the time travel element where you had to go back and forth.
Yeah. Well, I meant more like the aesthetics.
Oh, okay.
Just that sort of feel.
Yeah, the kind of weird underground races and stuff. Yeah, it was a little odd, but I think Oracle of Seasons might have been the last Zelda that actually let you approach the dungeons out of sequence, and that's something I really miss in the in the series is the ability to just say, I don't feel like doing this progress the way the game wants me to. And I accidentally stumbled onto like the 5th dungeon in Oracle of Seasons before the 4th by accident and beat it without even realizing, oh, hey, I did this wrong. This is all out of sequence. And I like that. I liked that about the first game where you could end up someplace that was way out of your depth and you kind of had to realize, oh, I can't get across this this little river here because I don't have the ladder yet. So I need to go back and find it in another dungeon.
Yeah. I was never that bold, but I always use the select button bug in Link's Awakening. You can like work to the other end of the screen, just like screw up completely. That was fun. Game Boy's pretty good.
Glad to hear it. Is there any last words you have about the 20th anniversary?
Yeah, well, I don't want to reiterate my blog post too much, but it's just like, I just feel a little bit bad for not loving it as continuously as I probably should have. Because it did just end up as a big part of my childhood and my gaming, career, so to speak. And so, it stuck around for quite a while, and it was always a part of me. What it was the old brick one, or getting hyped for the Pocket, or getting hyped for the Color, and onward to the Advance. And here I am playing Dragon Quest on DS now, and it's I don't know. Portable gaming has just always been a part of me, and I always thought it was cool, and it probably always still will be.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I'm like I said before, I'm pretty much a portable gamer these days.
Yeah.
Not really by design. It's just that's what I have time for. It's what I can play on the bus or play while laying in bed or sitting around on the couch as my girlfriend watches television.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't have to commit time blocks to sitting in front of a TV. So the DS is definitely my standby system, my go-to system.
I still have to get a Turbo Express though.
God. Those things weren't exactly the most battery efficient, were they?
It was freaking awesome though.
It's true. Are you going to get one of the what is it, the GTs? Or the
Japanese one?
Yeah, the really awesome one.
That's the LT.
LT, that's it.
Yeah, laptop one.
I was thinking Dragon Ball there.
That's on the wish list. Sure.
Good luck with that. Those things go for a lot, and they're pretty hard to find. But anyway, happy birthday, Game Boy.
Yeah. Let's totally talk about it some other time.
We absolutely should. All right, thanks, Ray.
Yeah, you bet. And now to talk about Vandal Hearts, for better or for worse, we have...
Curtis said from My Cheats.
And Curtis, you're here because...
I'm actually a fan of Vandal Hearts, which seems like a really rare thing.
I don't know about that. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. Vandal Hearts, let's explain what it was first. Was Konami's strategy RPG, basically.
Yes, it was on PS1. It appeared about 10 years ago.
Actually, it's been more than that. The first Vandal Hearts was one of the really early PlayStation RPG releases.
Yeah, it was around...
So it came around the end of 96, early 97.
Yeah, 97 was when it was released. It was still around about 2 years after the PS1's launch, so the system was still pretty new. It was before the craze of strategy RPGs like Final Fantasy Tactics and stuff like that.
Right. It landed here about the same time as Suikoden did. Mm-hmm. So it sort of predated the Final Fantasy VII awakening when America said RPGs are neat.
Yeah.
And like you said, it was a full year before Final Fantasy Tactics arrived here. So yeah, it kind of slipped on beneath the radar. And then Vandal Hearts 2, the sequel, came out in like 1999?
Yeah, it was a couple of years later. It was I believe 1999.
And I don't know why that slipped beneath the radar, but it was kind of like Suikoden 2, and it just sort of glided by without anyone noticing.
I think it was because of the new system. People were a little turned off by that because it had a simultaneous battle system where you fought at the same time as the enemy. And also, people really didn't like the art style. They complained that it was too ugly compared to the first game.
Now when you say a simultaneous battle system, the first game, Vandal Hearts game, it had that kind of like Fire Emblem style.
Yeah,
where
each
side moved
all of their units at once. But this time with Vandal Hearts 2, it was when you moved your character, the enemy moved at the exact same time. So you had to think about, you had to outsmart the enemy. You had to think about where they were going to move, where they were going to attack, how much they weighed.
Okay, so did you? I don't know if I really played Vandal Hearts 2. Did you actually? Did you select movements for your entire party, and then your entire party moved and the enemy moved at the same time, or did you select a character to move and an enemy character would move at the same time?
Yeah, you selected one character and then the enemy would move as well. Usually the enemy would outnumber you though, so after you moved all of like 10 of your guys, they would have like maybe 15 and then they could move on their own, which was usually a big disadvantage.
That sounds kind of weird and maybe not a good idea.
Yeah, that's probably why a lot of people passed over the game.
Did you like that?
I thought it was pretty interesting. I mean, it brought a new dynamic where you had to really outthink what the enemy was going to do, because otherwise you would go... If they moved away from the spot you thought they were going to be at, you just end up shooting a blank area or using magic that didn't do anything.
But they always had an unerring ability to go right for you, right?
Pretty much. So you could pretty much outsmart them. Like, they would probably try to ambush you from behind. And so what you would do is you would move 2 steps behind them. And when they would stop to try and attack you, you would be already behind them and attack them. It was a whole different way.
That sounds awful. You're basically like, it's a crapshoot. You're like, maybe the enemy's going to go here, but maybe not.
Pretty much. But one thing was the AI wasn't that smart in a lot of situations. So if you strategically put your characters in some good spots, you could easily figure out what the enemy was going to do.
That sounds like the worst idea for a strategy RPG ever. We'll give you dumb enemies, but you'll win or lose by luck.
Pretty much, yeah.
Nah.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. The first Vandal Hearts didn't do much for me just because I don't really like side-based combat, you know, like the Fire Emblem Shining Force style.
Yeah, sort of like
that just doesn't really, that doesn't really do much for me because I kind of cut my strategy RPG teeth on Final Fantasy Tactics, which basically adapted the
wait time system,
the active turn-based,
from Tactics Ogre,
right? Well, that and I mean, it really felt like it was a strategy RPG implementation of the normal Final Fantasy active time battle system. Like the fundamental underlying mechanics of it worked the same, which is that each character has his own like agility or speed, and there are certain hard measures, and depending on a character's agility, they get to move every so often beats of the measure, and so it basically all just comes down to how quick a character's agility is.
Yeah,
and
it was usually ninjas that beat everybody in Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah, or ninjas with the calculator skills.
That's true.
And then you just could stop playing because you'd win everything. I mean, it had its ways to be exploited, but it also made for, I don't know, I feel more involving combat because you weren't just like shuffling around a whole bunch of people. You really had to think about how each individual piece was going to move on the board.
Yeah, but usually with Final Fantasy Tactics, after you play for a while, your characters become way too overpowered. Like you said, speed is the main thing, and you could really get high speed stats in that game.
Yeah, so you end up with things like the battle at the end of Chapter 3, where it's just Ramza versus the one guy.
Y-Griff or Wee-Griff.
Yeah, you spend the entire battle like cranking up your speed. So by the end of it, you can like take 5 turns for every one of his, and then he transforms into the Zodiac Beast, and you're just like, dunk, 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 oh, you're dead. Thanks for everyone for showing up, but I didn't really need you. Yeah. So I mean, there's no such thing as a perfect battle system, but that was kind of, I don't know, where I came in. And so when I went back after playing Tactics and tried playing Vandal Hearts, I was like, no, this is why I haven't really enjoyed strategy RPGs so far.
Yeah, I think the big thing about Vandal Hearts is because it came out before Final Fantasy Tactics. So when it was your first, if it was your first experience playing a strategy game, it was pretty epic and very different because it was a very mature and bloody game. Like any time a character died, they would explode into this giant pixelated pus of red blood, pretty much.
Now, see, that's not actually how I define mature, but what I do define as mature is the fact that the characters in Vandal Hearts seemed like adults.
Yes.
Unlike just about every Japanese RPG now where you're a team of like 15-year-olds saving the world with sheer
everybody
pluck.
Seemed like they were in 20s, 30s.
Yeah,
even.
It was like you're controlling veteran warriors who are out to, you know, rescue their kingdom or whatever, and it really felt like, you know, like legitimate, this could have happened.
Yeah.
As
it wasn't
opposed
super
to,
like fantasy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there was actually substance behind what the characters were doing. Which brings us to Vandal Hearts. What is it called for
Flames of Judgment, which is coming out for Xbox 360 and PSN sometime later this year. It's a downloadable game. We saw it at Konami's Gamers Day.
Yeah.
I was excited at first because it was like, oh, Vandal Hearts, that hasn't been around for years. And then we ran up there, saw it, and
Konami didn't give us any indication whatsoever. They gave no one any indication that there was a new Vandal Hearts game on the way. So when they let us go do the hands-on stuff, I went upstairs to where all the games were, and the first thing I saw was Vandal Hearts, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Vandal Hearts. Maybe it's going to be awesome. And then I went over to play it, and you were there, and I saw what was happening, and I said, oh.
Yeah, it looked like a Cartoon Network kind of game. It was really easy. I was actually surprised by a lot of other people were they couldn't beat the demo. It was a really short, kind of easy level against a bunch of zombies. And I actually took the like half an hour to strategically try and beat that area. But it was just sit around with your guys bunched up and just use healing items over and over again.
So, from what I understand, the game is being developed in the U.S.
Yeah, that's from what I hear.
Everything Konami does now is developed in the U.S. They've it's weird. It's a Japanese company that's decided, our Japanese developers, we got Kojima, but that's about all we need.
Mm-hmm.
It's very strange. So, it's being developed by an American team, or maybe like Canadian or European or something, I don't know. But it's being developed in the West. And the artwork is clearly done by like a Savannah College of Art and Design graduate, which is, good art, but it doesn't really strike me as being very Vandal Hearts-ish.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts there?
I think it's a very strange move. I like the original art style from the first game, which actually, now that I think about it, it looks a lot like the art style from Sunset Riders and Mystic Warriors, old Konami arcade games. Right. And I always liked how it was somewhat serious and somewhat cartoony at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, when I first played it, I was like, really? I cut a skeleton in half and it's jetting blood in a geyser?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But now I look back and I'm like, that's kind of funny. Like, of all the things to show, like, why would we need a skeleton collapsing in half and going, as blood jets into the air?
Yeah, even things like inanimate objects, like you would destroy a statue and it would explode into like rocks, and it was just, everything was over the top in Vandal Hearts 1, and it was just amusing enough that you wouldn't really care that it didn't make any sense. But with this art style in Flames of Judgment, it's like, I don't really care. They're like little kids. Like, they look like they're 10-year-olds. That's a big problem with it.
One of them has like a dopey bowl cut. The first thing I saw, like, I've heard a lot of people make the Cartoon Network connection, and I can see that. But what it strikes me as is, like, a big fan of, say, D&D, Dungeons & Dragons, maybe the second rule set, second edition rules. Really, really getting into their adventures. That's the original Vandal Hearts.
Yeah.
And then Vandal Hearts Flames of Judgment is the Dungeons & Dragons Saturday morning cartoon.
Exactly, yeah.
And I really expected at some point for Uni the Unicorn to come out and go... like, it just has that vibe to it. And that's alarming. I'm not sure why they would resurrect a franchise name that's been gone for a decade for something that really doesn't seem to have much connection to it.
Yeah, they're probably marketing it to a bigger audience. Maybe that's why it's going to be...
They're putting it on XBN.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Or XBLA, sorry.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really seem to be like the bigger audience. the way to reach a huge audience. It seems like it's going to be for niche fans, and I could see strong fans of, like people who have been around for a while, like us, who have an affection for the Vandal Hearts name, saying, "Oh, cool, Vandal Hearts."
Yeah.
But then they're going to see what the game looks like and say, "What?"
Yeah, it could be a bit like a Suikoden Tierkris, which kind of did the same thing. It took this really popular series and turned it into something really different in games, and was on a completely different system. It was on the DS.
The problem with Suikoden Tierkris for me isn't that it didn't fall into the timeline, because I don't care, but the fact that everything I liked about Suikoden, which was the fact that it had, I don't know, the game was kind of. The series was always down to earth. Like, there was lots of magic and stuff, but you weren't out to save the world.
Yeah, it was about a little country, or
it was always about kind of
a localized conflict.
Yeah, exactly. And no, Tierkris is about saving the world.
Yeah. So maybe this is Konami's new strategy. We need to make it friendlier to everybody and make it huge about the world.
I'm really looking forward to the Castlevania first-person shooter. It's going to be awesome. But as much as the visuals of the new Vandal Hearts really make me kind of want to throw up, I'm told that the game is being developed, being directed by, quote, the biggest Vandal Hearts fan ever.
I don't know what exactly that could mean.
I don't know. I'm told that there's no reason to be alarmed, because it's actually great, and there's a good reason for all the characters to be retarded-looking 8-year-olds. But
is it somebody who actually played through the games a bunch of times and knows every character?
No, it's someone who works at Konami, but whose tastes I share and trust implicitly.
Okay.
So I feel compelled to believe him, but at the same time, the evidence in my eyes is saying this doesn't really have any reason to be a Vandal Hearts game.
Yeah,
this could have been
they could tack on any
Little
title.
Johnny's Big Strategy Adventure or something. Why call it Vandal Hearts? Because it doesn't look like, there's nothing about it that says, oh, it's Vandal Hearts.
They probably just wanted to revive the name in some way, and they figured this is a strategy game.
Maybe it was a trademark issue, and they were like, "Oh, we got to do something with this trademark after
or we're
going to
lose it.
We're going to lose it. Let's just take
Let's
this
just slap it
random
on anything.
kid strategy game, bin 10 the strategy, and we'll call it Vandal Hearts." How disappointing!
Yeah, that's not a good way to revive the series.
So I don't know. Are you going to give the game a shot? Are you going to give it a chance?
I'll probably buy it. I'll probably won't like it. The problem is we've only seen a demo so far,
Right.
so the full game could be something completely different. Maybe it could be they age later on, because that's what happened in Vandal Hearts 2. When you started out your characters, they were 10 years old, and they all looked like little kids, but immediately after completing the prologue, they had aged to, they were aged to 20 years old. So that was a big thing.
So the Breath of Fire 3 thing?
Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping that Flames of Judgment will do. It's not just kids the entire way through. But so far, what we've seen.
Yeah, but man, I like this artwork a whole lot better than Flames of Judgment's artwork.
That's true.
This is really nice. I hadn't really... I don't know if I've looked at the Vandal Hearts 2 manual.
Yeah, the problem is, in the Vandal Hearts 2 manual, they use different artwork than the portraits in the games. They're these really... In the games, there are these really ugly, dark pictures where you can't even tell what gender people are, or...
Well, that was the problem with Suikoden, too.
That's true.
Is Ronnie a man or a female? I don't know. I guess the real question is, in terms of battle mechanics, did the new Vandal Hearts feel like a Vandal Hearts game to you?
No, it really seemed like I was playing some Hoshigami kind of game, where even at the top of the bar, I saw the pictures going and it showed who's moving next, and I really wasn't excited about it. I liked the original Vandal Hearts system where you actually had a wave of people and you got to control where they went. And the big problem with
the new one isn't wave based. It's
no, it's individual. It might be speed based like Final Fantasy Tactics, but I couldn't even see the stats during the demo, which was really disappointing. But the big thing was that pretty much every character, I had 4 characters on my side, and they pretty much acted all the same. They had all the same weapons. Well, one had this hammer where he could attack everybody around him, but all of them pretty much had the same magic. What I liked about the original Vandal Hearts is there was actual class-based system where every character ended up different. You could have like snipers with rocket launchers, which really doesn't make sense. Or you can make your wizards.
Sure, that's just like how you snipe and make sure you really take out your target.
But yeah, there were things like ninjas. You could get various like winged characters. There were knights, there were dragoons, and in this one, there seems to be no class system at all.
Yeah, but something like that is really difficult to tell just from a demo. So maybe
it will happen later on.
So what would this game need to do to make you say, as a Vandal Hearts fan, I'm satisfied with Flames of Judgment?
I would like it if the characters you controlled were different in some way, either class system wise or what they equip changes the way they fight, and just make the game harder. The demo was just too easy.
For you, but not for anyone else who played.
That's true. Probably because I play a lot of strategy games, and maybe it was just other journalists who were looking at it, and they were like, I just want to see...
Well, I'm on my 5th vodka of the night.
And I know some of them purposely wanted to end the demo. They actually want to see how easy it was to die in the game, so...
I did that with the Final Fantasy 13 demo live stream, so I guess I can't say anything. So on the whole, we'll wrap it up here. Do the aesthetics really bother you? Like, if they get the gameplay right, do you care so much?
No, I won't care about the aesthetics as long as the gameplay actually works in the end.
Okay.
But that's what I'm still questioning.
Right. All right. Well, I'll be the superficial one and just say, oh, bowl cut. No. All right. Thanks a lot, Curtis.
Yeah, no problem, Jeremy.
Now we move on to talk about Final Fantasy, and with me here is Chris Kohler.
Hello, let's talk about Final Fantasy.
Are you Wired's Chris Kohler?
I am Wired's Chris Kohler.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Well, Chris, I've invited you here because you're secretly a big Final Fantasy fan, or you used to be.
I used to be. I'm a lapsed Final Fantasy fan.
Right.
Yep.
I think you gave up around Final Fantasy X-2, didn't you?
Yeah. Final Fantasy X-2 was pretty much.
You sure do hate that game.
Yeah, it jumped the shark, and I
want to hear you and I want to hear you and Garnet talk about the game sometime because he really loves it.
Does he really love it?
He does. But yeah, when I associated you before I knew you with like Final Fantasy fandom, you were the guy who wrote the Final Fantasy V fact before the game was ever written or translated into English.
That is true. Yeah,
or unofficially.
I started learning Japanese by playing Final Fantasy V concurrently with taking actual classes in it.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Final Fantasy changed your life maybe, or a little bit.
Absolutely, it did. I mean, yeah, Final Fantasy was one of my big series that I was just totally into, up through Final Fantasy X, and then X-2 came out, and it was very clear that Final Fantasy did not mean what it used to anymore.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were turned off by the game, but ultimately, I'm the kind of person who plays for the gameplay systems, and the stories are kind of incidental. The characters, like if it's interesting, that's good, but I'm not going to hate it too much. I mean, Final Fantasy V is all about the gameplay system, the mechanics, the job system.
Right.
And the characters are stupid, and the story is pretty much incidental. So, X-2 didn't really bother me that much.
Looking back, I mean, maybe I would look at Final Fantasy X-2 and say that it was a combination of me changing as a gamer, maybe video games changing as well. Because one of the things about RPGs and certainly the adventure genre in the US is that they used to be the only place you could go to get a video game that had a story.
Right.
By about that time, 2003 when X-2 came out, I mean, that was changing. And I mean, there were a lot of other video games, other genres where you could get stories that were a little less dumb than some of the Final Fantasy stories. I hate to say it.
Final Fantasy can be pretty hokey.
Yes. It was less
And when
hokey,
it's not hokey, people don't really like it.
and less just bizarre and Japanese. I mean, it's just sort of like it's like a weird, lengthy anime series about people who fight and yell a lot.
That was actually kind of why I liked X-2. I mean, I've not really played all the game, but just the fact that it was the first Final Fantasy to say, let's just, or at least the first Final Fantasy in the 3D modern era, to say, let's just be ridiculous. Like, there was a lot of that kind of goofiness in the old Final Fantasy. You know how you had emoticon or like characters who would have weird sweat drops and stuff in Final Fantasy V and 6. There's a lot of goofiness to it. And that kind of disappeared or felt out of place in the rare occasions when it did appear. Like I don't know, there was some of that in Final Fantasy VII that just felt really out of place.
Yeah.
And then 10-2, like it all actually kind of fit when Yuna dresses up as a Moogle mascot.
Right.
I'm like, okay, why not? Why not have a mission where I'm delivering balloons to children?
Yeah.
What the hell?
I guess I took Final Fantasy a lot more seriously than maybe I should have, or maybe certainly more seriously than Square Enix was
People
taking
have been known to take video games too seriously and
Mm-hmm.
misinterpret them, I think. But
yeah.
Anyway,
But,
we're not really
anyway,
talking about
I mean,
Final Fantasy X.
We're not, but I mean, certainly that would be a marking point. The thing is, Final Fantasy 12 I should have liked, but it just by that point I feel like Final Fantasy and Japanese RPGs in general had really passed me by as a player.
Of course, I don't know. Have you played Final Fantasy XII that much? Because it's not really that much like other Final Fantasies, which is why it's not very popular among the fan base.
Yeah, it's not, and it got,
and it's not like a lot of other Japanese RPGs. It's more Western in feel.
Indeed, but Western RPGs really had never held a whole lot of appeal for me. Like honestly, like playing Final Fantasy 12 just seemed like it. I did play. I mean, I don't know how much of it I played. Probably like 10 hours or so. But it just totally threw me off. Like I just wasn't into the gameplay system at all.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Anyway, but that's not really what we're here to talk about. We're Final Fantasy XIII's demo has just finally come out, attached to in Japan, attached to the Advent Children Complete Blu-ray release.
Yes.
And everyone's got to go watch that because boy, is that a cinematic masterpiece.
Oh yeah, God.
But no, the reason you're here is because alongside the release of Advent Children Complete, Square Enix has gone on record saying, we will not be doing anything more with a compilation of Final Fantasy VII now.
Have they?
Yeah. You didn't see that news last week?
I did not see that news, no.
Oh, yeah.
That they're...
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't remember where I read this. It might have been on 1UP, actually. It's kind of a blur now because I've been sort of immersed in this Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy XIII blogging. But,
right.
The idea behind compilation of Final Fantasy VII was Square said, wow, we had this really, really successful RPG that people still love because it was such a landmark, and also it was something that introduced people to the RPG genre. So, it's like something that is a fan favorite. So we need to milk the hell out of this game.
Right, polymorphic content.
Right.
Yep.
So they made a cell phone game that was maybe good. I don't know. Before Crisis, I heard it's okay. They made a third-person shooter that was abysmal. A shooter that was even worse.
They did, yeah.
Did you play that at TGS?
Oh my
yes,
God. TGS I did, yeah.
Oh
I
my God.
Yeah,
oh my God. Dirge of Cerberus Lost Episodes.
No,
so bad. They made, of course, Advent Children, which I know some people like it, but man.
Even the people who like it, they acknowledge all of the complaints against it, but they say, but that's not what that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be stupid. And it's like, okay, it's still dumb.
All right. I feel like it's a bad movie when you don't actually mention your characters by name. Who the hell is Ketchi? Who knows? They never actually mentioned his name.
Right.
And then finally there was Crisis Core, which was stunningly good. I really enjoyed it. But I think a lot of people have kind of assumed that you have this like Advent Children AC, before Crisis BC, Crisis Core CC,
right, CC,
Dirge of Cerberus DC, that they'd keep going until they get to like
EC expanded.
I don't know what it would be, but then they would get to like a Final Fantasy VII remake, and that would be the grand and glorious finale.
People who thought this was going to happen do not think things through at all.
Well, I think there's a lot of compelling arguments in favor of a Final Fantasy VII remake, one of which is that it would sell a ton of copies and Square would make money hand over fist.
The problem is, yes, it probably would sell a ton of copies. If you think about it, Final Fantasy VII was created with low polygon characters, and all of its scenes, all the things that need to be in there were created based on what can we do with a reasonable amount of money, with a lot of money, but within a reasonable budget on the PlayStation 1. A PlayStation 3 game, if you look at Final Fantasy 13 and you start to break it down once Final Fantasy 13 comes out in terms of how it's set up, what are the sizes of the dungeons? What do they look like? What are our cinematic scenes? How long are they? What do people say? It's all going to be based on the fact the characters have ridiculously higher polygon counts. It costs a lot more money to voice every line of dialogue and not just write out text. All of those things, if you actually look at what it would take to make Final Fantasy VII happen on PlayStation 3, is probably absurd.
The funny thing is, I never really saw Final Fantasy VII as being a PS3 game, the remake. I saw it as being a PSP game. I saw them taking Crisis Core using some of the same character models. I mean, you've got Cloud, you've got Aerith right there.
Sure.
You've got a ton of the characters, and it looks a lot better than Final Fantasy 1, that's for sure. It looks like, a really high-quality PS2 game, which at this point is not that expensive to make. I mean, Square puts a lot of effort into the visuals, so it would be a fairly costly project, but it would sell so much. They would make their money back without question.
On PSP games don't actually sell. They just get pirated.
Crisis Core sold.
Crisis Core sold okay for a PSP game.
Monster Hunter sells.
Monster Hunter sells.
I think the thing about Monster Hunter, though, is it's harder to pirate, and you can't really get the experience just playing pirated.
Right, you can't.
But anyway, I don't know. I kind of saw that as being a possibility.
Yeah.
But Square has said we're done with compilation of Final Fantasy VII, at least for the time being.
Right.
Maybe they'll change their minds. Maybe they'll sing a different song once they actually finish this whole Fabula Nova Crystallis thing, and it's taken 8 years to get completed, and they haven't made enough money back.
Right.
But who knows?
It's now almost 3 years to the day since they announced it.
But a nail in the coffin would be the fact that Final Fantasy VII has just come out on the PlayStation Network for download in Japan.
Right. That's not so much a nail in the coffin. That's the indication that they're not going to do a remake.
No. The two together. We're done with Final Fantasy VII's compilation, and oh, by the way, here's the game for sale on PSN. Incidentally, it costs 2.5 times as much as any other PSN game.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's how they're going to make money hand over fist.
Exactly.
They're going to give us, or at least the Japanese gamers, who knows what SCEA will do.
Yep.
Give them, that money. The game, like the way they had it before, straight up, there you go.
Right. And they'll probably make more money doing that than they would sinking
it's super low effort.
$100 million into a remake.
I mean, how much money do you think it costs for them to adjust the game for PSP? Practically none whatsoever, because it's running on like a standard Sony emulator.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be like free money. At $15 a piece, if they sell 500,000 copies, wow.
Right.
They just made $8 million.
Yep. But to do that, I mean, unless of course Sony is charging them per gigabyte down.
Well, yeah, I mean, you do have to take into account the fact that there is the licensing fee. I'm sure Sony takes a chunk out, but even so, millions of dollars from a single release.
Right.
So that's their winning answer.
Yep.
But I'm curious to know if you think that there will be Final Fantasy 5 and 6 remakes for DS. I think it's been kind of assumed that Final Fantasy 3 remade for DS, Final Fantasy 4 remade for DS.
Right, that they're going to do 5 and 6.
Right.
Yeah, really interesting, because they've now announced that they're going to bring in Japan all 6 Final Fantasy games to Virtual Console.
All 6 of the Nintendo-based Final Fantasies.
You've got to believe that they're clearly going to take the PlayStation, now that they've basically said, okay, digital distribution will do it with Final Fantasy VII, that they're going to look at taking 4, 5, and 6 for PS1 and bringing those out on the Japanese PlayStation Network, and so just getting them out there like that. Yeah, does it make any sense to start doing these big-ass remakes of 5? 6, I was never quite sure they were going to do, because again, 6, very, very complicated.
Although
it's a
my biggest concern with 6 was that to make it equivalently, appropriately more impressive than Final Fantasy 4 was beyond the capabilities of the DS. But as a DSi exclusive game, that would work because it has more processing power. It has more RAM. You can get all the characters moving.
Perhaps, but I mean, I don't think we're going to see.
reasonable.
I don't think we're going to see DSi exclusive games for quite a long time.
Well, this would be 2 or 3 years down the road.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I mean, again, I think the question really is: are they going to keep doing remakes of games that they're just going to release on digital download services? Because aren't they really cannibalizing the potential sales of those games? I never quite thought 6 was going to happen, just because, again, the same situation with the Final Fantasy VII remake of just how complex a game it is. When you start thinking about taking that game and turning it into something 3D, it's a big project. 5 is not very complex at all.
The complexity there comes in the character models with all the different job changes.
Yes, you need 30 different character models for each person. You probably couldn't just do it dynamically,
No, but I mean, they did that with Final Fantasy 3, and it wasn't that big a deal.
Right.
There were maybe not even twice as many job classes, so it would require more assets. But but it's not unmanageable.
Right.
But the fact is that they're releasing the games on Virtual Console. And last year at GDC, like exactly a year before they announced that the games are coming to Virtual Console, I spoke with the team behind Crystal Tools. And one of the things I asked them was, it wasn't really their purview, but I said, Like, you've only released a handful of games on Virtual Console so far, like ActRaiser. Does that mean we'll never see an ActRaiser remake? And they said, yeah. Basically, when we release something on Virtual Console, it means we don't really see any potential market for a remake of that game. We don't really see any way to expand that franchise any further, which is why you saw ActRaiser and Hanjuku Hero.
Right.
And so I kind of took that as a bad sign when Secret of Mana showed up because, well, I guess that means the Mana series really is dead and buried.
Right.
But now, you're seeing games like Final Fantasy 1 through 6.
Yes, and clearly that franchise
that's a viable franchise.
Potential for Square Enix. So yeah, maybe they have actually changed their mind. Honestly, I mean their view of the download market seems to have been very strange. I mean, just that view that like we're only going to release games where we don't see any potential to sell anything else seems like they had this view where they really felt that downloadable sales just destroyed any potential to sell it on disc. And I mean, maybe that was not quite true.
I don't know. It's interesting because I think you started to sort of see this like a shift, or the lines get kind of muddied when they announced a remake of Saga 2, the Game Boy game,
right?
That is coming to DS.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, Saga Frontier 1 and 2 were released for PSN in Japan.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to figure out exactly, like, parse what Square's logic here is. They're very inscrutable.
Their logic is always kind of strange, and honestly, this is, it always seemed to me quite the opposite, that you would want to use digital distribution to test the waters for a particular franchise and maybe bring it back down the road.
Well, I mean, I think Nintendo has done that to some degree. They did that with Metroid. Like right before Metroid Prime 3 came out, they said, hey, look, we're having a whole bunch of Metroid games on Virtual Console this month.
Right.
And I think that was great. That was like...
Punch-Out.
Punch-Out, exactly.
Punch-Out. Yeah, they are holding back some of these games and using them to launch products. And again...
Does that mean Majora's Mask is going to be held in the U.S. until they announce their next Wii Zelda?
Yeah, probably.
Great.
Actually, you know what I bet it is? Somebody mentioned this. It's probably they're holding it for the 300th game on Virtual Console. Which, since there's 290-something games, means we'll probably only have to wait until August or September for it. Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, the Square Enix philosophy, I actually put in a request with Square to, give me some answers on this, but I haven't heard back from them yet, which isn't surprising.
No.
Well, I mean, their Queen Bee of PR has been out of the country for a few days, so so that's probably why.
Right.
But I really don't know that they would actually tell me anything anyway.
You have to wait until the next time you're talking to an executive in those unguarded moments of honesty.
Yeah,
like,
I get so many of those.
We can't find the floppy disk source code, which means we can't release things on Virtual Console.
So I guess the ultimate question is, like, do you think that Square is giving up on remakes, or do you think that they're giving up on remaking these franchises, or do you think that they just are finally embracing digital distribution of old games as a way to make some really, really easy money?
I don't think they're giving up on remakes so much as I think that they've realized that they're not mutually exclusive, that you can probably sell people an old version of the game. Plus, I mean, remember, we are talking about Square Enix fans here who will buy anything.
But yeah, point taken.
In their favorite series, so they're probably realizing that it's not mutually exclusive. That you can sell somebody Final Fantasy 1 on Virtual Console and still sell them a remake of Final Fantasy 1 later on, because they do want to play the same game over and over and over again. I mean, how many times do you own Final Fantasy 4? Got a lot of them.
Actually, I think I just have the one for DS now. Oh wait, no, I have the GBA one because I actually like that better than the DS one. Flaws aside.
Right. Well, I've got it for the Super Nintendo. I've got it for the PlayStation, the Wonder Swan, the Game Boy Advance, and the DS, and probably something else I'm not thinking of.
Wow.
Because I will buy Final Fantasy IV every time Square Enix releases it. That is the price of my former Square Enix fandom.
So are you looking forward to Final Fantasy IV, The Afterbirth?
Yes, I am. I am very much looking forward to that.
Glad to hear it. I don't know if that even counts as something to talk about on Retronauts. It almost is, because they're using just like the graphics from Final Fantasy IV hacked slightly.
Yeah, and it's not on a cell phone.
And it has a Gongoro dwarf, which is awesome.
No, I actually really am looking forward to that.
I'm curious to see how it plays out. I'm glad that they're bringing it here at least, and not on a cell phone.
Right.
Well, did we come to any conclusions?
My conclusion is that no, I don't think Square Enix is done with releasing remakes. I do think that Final Fantasy VII Remake is absolutely not going to happen, but I think that it is good that they have embraced digital distribution of their games that are not Hanjuku Hero.
Yeah. All right. Well, I find myself agreeing with you. Fantastic.
All right.
And so now we're entering our final segment for the show.
Final round. Fight!
Very good.
Thank you.
As you can tell, Chris Kohler remains with the show.
I am still here.
He's still here. And also joining us for her Grand Retronauts send-off, her big finale before she heads back to the Chi-Town in the
Windy
sky.
City.
Chi-Town?
Chi-Town. Isn't that what they call it?
I think it's
Chi-Town.
I like Chi better.
I do too.
It's like a city full of energy.
Yep.
You can feel it flowing from the river on St. Patrick's Day when they dye it green.
Oh, gross. Yes.
Introduce yourself.
You can feel it then. Oh, hi, I'm Jen Frank.
Remember Jen Frank, everyone? She's
Well,
awesome. Anyway, Jen hasn't been on the show in a long time.
No.
Long time no see.
Hi again.
She is leaving San Francisco for the apparently more temperate climes of Chicago. So, no?
Well, right now it is.
Yeah.
What the hell is with this heat wave?
It's gross and hot in San Francisco.
Yeah,
It's
that's not cool.
amazing.
Right?
Hate it. But it did let me wear my my all-white outfit. I was really sad today that I don't own a Panama hat.
I was
You
going
look
to
like
say.
a Southern band leader.
I know. You
know.
look like you own Curious George.
Well, if I had a
God.
Panama hat, I would look like Renee Belloc, and that's awesome. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's all beside the point. But of course, that's the whole point, is that this
it's beside
this
the point.
segment is
Right.
freeform, anecdotal. At the end of last episode, which was, 6 or 7 months ago?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. I asked everyone to write in with their favorite gaming memories or their earliest gaming memories, and they did. In fact, I got about 60 of these, and we've printed them out and pruned the little scrubby ones that were kind of growing out and down to the strong best ones.
Yes.
Yeah. So
That was a great metaphor, by
Thanks.
the way. I just
Yes.
wanted to say.
it
That
was almost good.
It was so clear at the beginning you knew
That
where you were
metaphor
going.
I know.
stopped
yeah.
in the middle.
And then I forgot all my botany. Very sad. But anyway, we're going to read the letters, the best letters, the strong unpruned letters.
The bonsai tree of memory.
Yeah. And maybe I'll force you guys to share your own fond reminiscences of your early video gaming years.
Okay.
You play video games, right?
Not anymore. No, I just write about them.
Yeah, I know what that's like.
You guys.
Oh, we're such jokers.
We're funsters. So anyway, I'm going to start out with Mario Mendez because he managed to embed a little picture of Mega Man jumping in his letter.
Is that
What's that?
Should you be able to do that?
I don't know.
That's high up in HTML.
I guess that our letter composition system, private messaging system on 1UP does allow for image insertion.
Oh,
and
well, good. And then
he made use of it with Mega Man.
The emails you get just have little pictures of Mega Man.
I know it could be a lot
Lemon
worse.
Party or whatever.
You hope.
Thanks for giving everyone an idea.
Okay.
Yes.
Send Jeremy Lemon Party pictures now. Subliminal messaging.
I like the little Mega Man sprites better. Just if you're trying to curry favor.
Lemon Party.
Lemon curry.
What's the opposite of subliminal? Would it be like overliminal?
Overt. Yeah, but superliminal.
Superliminal.
Yeah. Bam. Language.
Well done.
Look at your use of it.
Right?
So, Mario Mendez says, the year was 1987. I was just 6 years old, and one day I went to one of my richest friends' birthday party. After leaving a popular pizza parlor with a man in a dirty giant mouse costume, we all went to his home.
Oh.
I think he means Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, okay.
When we arrived there, some guys...
Wait, he went to the home of the man in the dirty mouse costume?
No, his richest friend,
you shouldn't... Oh, okay.
who I think is separate from the man in the dirty mouse costume.
Okay.
Maybe he meant the rat from Beacon.
I don't see any white paneled vans mentioned in here, so...
Okay, good.
So when we arrived there, some guys were already sitting in front of the TV, staring at it. As I watched the screen, I noticed they were moving a little guy in a world full of breakable bricks, pipes, mushrooms, and piranha plants. I focused my eyes in the upper left corner of the screen to clearly see the name Mario, which is my name if you didn't know, above the score. I suddenly exclaimed in a loud, imperative voice, "Hey, God damn it!" He was a really tough 6-year-old.
For a 5-year-old, yeah. Swears a lot.
"It's my turn to play. It says Mario right there." And everyone told me then, "No, wait, dude, that's the name of the game. It's not you." That was a turning point in my life.
It's not all about
Nintendo was calling me by my name to play it. Okay, then, it's my turn after Alex, who is playing now, you bitches. You know, I think this is an embellished
You didn't say that.
A little bit.
You didn't say that.
Right, Mario, if that is your real name.
It's like one of those anecdotes where someone's like, and I was like, "Step off, bitch." And you're like, "Were you like that? Or did you say that?" And the storyteller's like, well, that's what I was like.
That's how I felt.
Right. Yeah. I actually said, "Excuse me."
Anyway.
Ma'am.
He was told that 15 other kids will play, and then him. Then I told them all, quite disappointed and sad, "Screw you guys, I'm going home."
Oh.
But I didn't go home. I stayed there patiently waiting for my turn. I had seen Atari and Intellivision games before, but they were nothing compared to this.
There we go.
Secret underground worlds, above the clouds and under the water, accessible by pipes or large plants like Jack and the Beanstalk, all thanks to hallucinations caused by ingesting orange and green mushrooms. Finally, a full interactive fantasy world was available to me without having to use my own imagination. I realized later in my life, without a shadow of a doubt, that video games are the genesis of a virtual reality world, like in The Matrix. That time I only played Super Mario Brothers in Burger Time, but the fire was already burning inside me.
Wow.
And I don't know why he put a Mega Man picture in there, but he tricked me.
That's a really good letter. I really like that letter a lot.
Now we know how to get you to read any random letter.
I'm such a
no
mark.
matter how made up. Just put a little Mega Man picture in it.
I didn't realize I was that obvious.
I like how...
I have two that are weirdly identical. So here's the first one from I'm going to skip.
Can you just hold them up side by side?
Yeah, for you listeners who are watching the non-existent video of this, I'll hold them up. So Aaron Schnoof, I don't know, says, the memory of playing my first video game is also one of my earliest memories. It was Asteroids. At 5 years old, I was too short to see the screen, so my father held me up by one arm and used his other to control the ship. My job was smacking the hell out of the huge red fire button. We must have done a pretty good job at it, too, since we scored high enough to get my initials in for a high score. But then... I get another letter.
That's actually kind of impressive because that is not an easy game to control with the buttons.
No.
You kind of need two hands almost for the buttons.
Here's his dad using one hand to do both the buttons. Dad must have been a video game.
Schnuff, your dad is awesome.
Schnuff, Aaron.
We're
Aaron
impressed.
Schnuff. Your dad is
he's
dad
tough
rules.
Schnuff.
Right? That's what they probably called him in high school. So then there's somebody else, Michael Sinotis. What is it with these last names that I've never heard of? I must have been about 3 or 4. I was walking through the mall with my dad, and he spontaneously decided to take me into the arcade and put a quarter in a machine for me, and it was Asteroids. I somehow blasted all the asteroids without getting hit. I was so proud. Then, this weird spaceship thing appeared and opened its mouth, which shot out a tractor beam. Being 3, I decided that this must be my mothership, and I steered my ship into the beam, where it sucked me up and ate me.
See, what he just described isn't actually Asteroids.
Oh, why? What is it?
It's Galaga.
Oh, okay. Well, it's Galaga. Those weren't asteroids.
Asteroids doesn't have a ship with a tractor beam, does it?
Michael Sinotis.
It has a UFO that flies across and shoots at you.
Maybe that's what happened. Maybe he went to the UFO.
I think he's conflating memories here.
Could be. Well, those 3 or 4 year old memories.
I realize that.
No, there are.
Anyway, I actually wanted to read this because then he inserted a PS for you, Mr. Jeremy Parrish.
Oh my God.
PS. Say what you want about Suikoden 2's localization. There is no town where everyone has untranslated text. There are only a handful of untranslated text boxes in the game, the most notable of which are all these stock tips.
Actually, that's not true. If you beat the game but don't finish the game, you fight the final boss, then you have to go meet Joey on the hills where you made your vow or whatever at the beginning of the game. There's a small out-of-the-way town where you can go, and it's totally not relevant to the plot. It's just this random town that's in the game, and no one there speaks English. They all speak Unicode. So yeah, try it out. It's only like a 50-hour effort to get to that point of the game. It's worth it. It's a good game. But yeah, actually, that memory you just shared, both of those memories, the like random video game in a mall, that's my first video game memory right there. I played Miss Pac-Man in the middle of a Sears when I was like 5. It was back in that like the early '80s when video games were just everywhere, and apparently they decided we should put a Miss Pac-Man machine right here in the tractor and lawn department of Sears. In retrospect, I have no idea why there was a Pac-Man machine right there, but I remember my father was looking at lawnmowers, and my parents gave me a quarter, and I played Miss Pac-Man, and I was so proud because I managed to survive long enough for the little cherry to come on the screen.
Hey-o.
And I was thrilled because I think that means I played for like 30 seconds.
Right. But you'd survive.
But I survived that long, and it was the first time I'd ever played a game, and it was awesome.
Maybe they put them in the lawn tractor department, so to stop kids who are bored from like reaching inside of the tractors and like
could be. They should probably do stuff like that these days.
Yeah, they should.
But I was just over the moon about having played it. And I remember after we went to the mall, we went to my great-grandparents' house, and I tried to explain to them that I played Miss Pac-Man and I got the cherry.
Right.
And I still remember to this day my great-grandmother's look of kind befuddlement as I tried to explain to her that I had mastered Miss Pac-Man, and she obviously had no idea what I was talking about.
Right.
But she tried. It was really sweet of her. And that's my first memory.
All right.
Jen, why don't you share a letter?
Let's see here. Andrew Robertson writes, "Hi, Jeremy.
Hi.
In 1988, when I was 5, I went with my grandmother to visit my aunt and uncle near Vancouver, British Columbia. While I was out there, I attended a cheap carnival. I left there with several things, including a neon green stuffed animal in sunglasses, 2 paintings of monster trucks done on sheets of glass."
Hey, wait, did he say what year this was? Because I'm betting it
88.
was Bigfoot. Yeah, okay.
And a case of the chicken pox.
Oh.
Yeah, because the airline wouldn't let me fly so long as I was contagious. I wound up staying out there for 2 extra weeks. Around this time, I had been seeing a lot of commercials for the Sega Master System, and being a good child of our culture, I decided I wanted one. Thankfully...
I didn't know that Sega could afford advertising back then.
The letter.
Sorry.
Thankfully, my parents made a better choice for me, and when I finally got back home, there was an NES action set sitting there waiting for me. As soon as I started up Super Mario Brothers, I was hooked.
I just want to point out that I mean, how fitting for Jen's last appearance. Jen just told you to focus on the subject at hand.
I know.
Jeremy, come on.
It was a joke. A joke. I have a sense of irony, Kohler. No, I like that letter a lot. I selected that letter because I like video games as kind of a chicken soup.
I see.
That kid
for the
got
soul?
that. And,
Sure.
Well, that too, but also for the thumbs. His chicken-pocked thumbs.
Actually, you say that, but I remember playing Rad Racer so much that I started getting an RSI, and for a while, my parents thought I would never be able to play another video game again, and I have cried that hard in my life very few times, but I was utterly crushed that I played Rad Racer so much that I would never be able to play another video game. Fortunately, everything was okay.
Yeah.
I got better like a day later. I'm sorry, were you still going? Or was I just...
He had chicken pox, so he got a Nintendo.
Right on.
Is what happened.
Yeah.
All right, this is from Dale P., a.k.a. Fat Wreck.
A.k.a. what?
Fat Wreck.
Fat Wreck. All right.
Yep.
Own it.
Fat Wreck. Hello, Retronauts. He spelled it with an N. He spelled it RETRONAUGHT. So I always feel like that's a British voice. Hello, Retronauts. I feel like this podcast will act as a time capsule to show my kids when we're older and grayer. I think they call this edutainment. Anyway, my story. My most vivid and nostalgia-laden memory of retro gaming was when I was about 8 years old and had the great idea to take a 15-inch black and white TV in my NES and set up a little gaming center in my closet. I had the TV on the floor and the NES stacked on top. And when I closed the door to the outside world, it was completely saturated in whatever game I was playing at the time. A pitch black closet with the TV being the only source of light, a wall of t-shirts hanging over the head, and a space just big enough for one. It was complete immersion. For some reason or another, my mother didn't approve, something about my eyes, and I had to disassemble it at the end of the summer. Now whenever I watch A Christmas Story and see Randy hiding in the cupboards under the sink, I think of my special little place. Oh, he's not British. He's from Saskatchewan, which is kind of like like being British.
Used to be a British territory.
Yeah, it's like honorary British.
They have isn't the Queen on their money?
Or actually, is that honorary French? I don't know my.
I think it's both.
Canadian culture that well.
I think it's all honorary European.
All right.
Yep.
Roll on.
So, Carrie Woodham from Packland says, "My first video game." That's where this is from. My first video game that I ever played.
I met him.
Oh, okay. Is he 2D?
No, he's actual size, but he's from Packland.
My first video game that I ever played was probably a home port of a Pong clone. My dad, who majored in electrical engineering, built our first TV out of a Heathkit set, and he added a few extras, like a Pong game on Channel 2.
Man, that's hardcore.
Right? But I never realized that was a video game. I just thought it was a channel on the TV. The first time I realized I was playing a video game was when I found the Pac-Man arcade machine near the checkout lanes at the Kroger grocery store.
Kroger.
At first, I thought it was a soda vending machine. I couldn't stop talking about it on the way home, and I've been a huge Pac-Man fan ever since.
Carrie Woodham loves Namco in general, and that would explain why.
I was going to say, apparently Pac-Land is in the Midwest. Kroger.
It's in Kansas. So what's funny is that this actually does sort of tie into my first video gaming memories, which was, my dad was very much a hacker. He had a TRS-80 computer, probably right around the time that I was born, and one of my first memories is like sitting on the floor in our living room watching him at the computer. Remember, this is like 1984 maybe, and he was actually programming a blackjack game for the TRS-80, because back in the day, if you wanted a video game, you pretty much had to actually make it yourself, and so he was making a blackjack game in BASIC on the TRS-80. And a lot of my early memories have to do with my family, and I just grew up with computers, and a lot of my early gaming was done on the Atari 800 XL computer that we had, and tons of copied games on discs that we would get from our friends and share around.
I think that's really resonant, because when you're a kid that age, to you, your dad is Superman.
Right.
He can do anything.
Yeah.
And your dad was actually like this proto-geek hacker Superman.
Yep.
As opposed to dad who can change the light bulbs.
Right.
Dad who can take the stairs 2 steps at a time.
Yeah, my dad was like the build a separate garage, 2-car garage behind the house super dad.
Yeah.
Which is
my dad was actually
handy kind of dad.
My dad was also that super dad. My dad built an addition onto our house with his friends. Yeah. He was I say was. He's still alive. He's still relatively young. But also he worked out a way to copy. I probably mentioned this in Retronauts before, but he worked out a way to copy Atari 2600 games.
I remember this.
With a computer and a cassette tape drive and stuff. And so I remember playing 2600 at his work, where he worked off of EPROMs that he would take and put into a cart that he built to swap out EPROMs on. So I guess it was just sort of inevitable that I'd end up in video games, because certainly my parents were totally into it. They were an easy sell on the NES.
I have no excuses whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't know what your story is at all.
I'm just here.
Yeah.
But I have a question. You did your gaming on an Atari 800. What language did that use?
English.
No. Programming language.
We actually would mess around with BASIC, but I'm not quite sure what the games were programmed in. Probably some proto version of no, probably. You know what? I bet they just used assembler language to program games.
I don't know, because I've always sort of wondered, when I was a kid, we had I think it was either an Atari 400 or 800. It was one that had just a flat membrane keyboard.
That was a 400.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know where my parents got it. They found it left behind someplace, and I don't know, at the school or something.
Yeah.
And I tried programming basic stuff on it, but it would never work. The computer would come on and it would work with the TV, but I would try to program, the 10 go to whatever. When I typed run, it would never work. So
yeah, the Atari 400s,
I didn't realize there were other languages back then, but I was just wondering.
No, you should have been able to use BASIC on the Atari 400. That's what we would always get we had the Atari magazines and stuff, and you could program, you could just type in the programs, right? And so those were BASIC, and so we would type those in and watch those go. But I'm sure that the games, because remember, a lot of these games for the 400, 800 were actually sold on cartridges.
No, I didn't have any games for it. It was just I was trying to type in programs.
I think maybe you exceeded the RAM limitations, like because the 400 was
like a 5-line basic program. It was just like print screen. Never worked.
Interesting. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure why that wouldn't work.
Thwarted. Jen, take us to the next level.
Sure. How would you like me to do that?
Letter.
I was thinking you could read another letter.
Okay. Let's see here. Later game memory, maybe to us older kids.
Okay.
My first gaming memory. Oh, sorry. Hey, this is from James McKenzie, whose username is either J-Ray or Dre.
Probably J-Ray. I like J-Ray.
I think, but see, it's not a hyphenate or anything. It's actually Dre.
Yeah, that's true. There's no hyphen.
Well,
let's move along with the letter.
All right.
It's just going to make us feel really old.
Yes. Yes, it is.
There's one here about some kid who had his first experience with his cousin playing Genesis emulators. So that makes me want to kill myself.
Yeah, let's not read that one.
No, we're not going to.
Well, oh, great.
Oh, what's this one?
Okay. My first gaming memory, like many my age, was on the N64. Sorry. But being a dumb young boy, I didn't actually have any good games for it. It pretty much consisted of Star Wars games like Shadow of the Empire, parenthetical aside, ouch, and Rogue Squadron, which was good, but I couldn't really play it very well at my young age. And then there was Pod Racer. Until the Wii, this has been the only game my parents played, and the only game my dad ever played besides Galaxian. I love that game so much, and my most distinct memory of it is when I found my parents at midnight had brought the system upstairs from the basement, hooked it up to the TV, and had played it for hours, determined to beat each other. When the hell is this coming to Virtual Console so I can relive the glory days? Keep up the good work, Retronauts. Love
Is someone whose first gaming experience was Pod Racer, are they actually old enough to use the site without their parents' permission? Let's move along to Joseph Abelos, J. Pauls. Hello, everyone at Retronauts. In 1992, I was 6 years old, and that Christmas, after sending a letter to Santa to the South Pole... South Pole?
What? Well, I can tell you where he went wrong, Billy.
And having my belief in Santa crushed the very same year by a priest...
Oh, the priest did it.
Who told you Santa lives in the North Pole,
There's some
dumbass.
really weird undercurrents to this letter. I got a present that made a 180-degree turn in my life. A pseudo NES that came with one of those 10,000 games in one cartridges.
Nice.
And an original copy of Mario Brothers 2.
Santa does exist, and he lives in Taiwan.
I had played Mario Brothers 1 in a friend's house, but this was the first time I had a game and console to call my own, and I loved it. Everything about it was awesome, but the coolest thing that I remember was the sharing of controllers with my brothers. Trying to beat every stage with Peach because she ruled, falling over and over again at the same place only to try again, and the satisfaction of showing that stupid mouse who was boss.
Nice.
Also, I realized that my parents were the Pope and Mother Teresa in disguise, because many times I woke them up at 6 a.m., turned on the TV with full volume, and began to play. How I'm still alive, you tell me, because I don't know. But one day, my cartridge mysteriously became stuck to the NES, super glue perhaps, and my parents sent it to the doctor, as they told me, but it never came back.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't have another console until the PS1. Well, that's my sad little story.
Wow.
That took a turn for the heart-wrenching.
I have a sad story here, too, actually. Actually, this is an amazing and sad story. Hey, Jeremy, guys. It says, hey, Jeremy, and then in parentheses it says, guys. So thank you, Philip Collins, for...
His name is Philip
Collins?
Jen and I, yeah.
Wow.
If only Sean
Can I
Baby
touch
was
this
here,
letter?
Right?
All right, drum riffs, let's go.
Where are you, Sean Baby, when we need you? Okay, so my first experience with video games was deep in the jungles of Bangladesh.
That's where he learned to drum. Phil Collins learned to drum in Bangladesh.
My parents were missionaries, and I spent the first 9 years of my life on a hospital compound. It was the late 80s in one of the poorest countries in the world, so I felt like the luckiest kid the day my friend brought an NES back from his trip to the U.S., complete with Super Mario Brothers and the first Turtles game. Our compound was hooked up to a
he felt
generator.
lucky until he actually played the first Turtles game.
He was in Bangladesh.
That's true.
That's the best game ever.
Beats malaria.
Yeah. Our compound was hooked up to a generator that would frequently shut down at random, so our play sessions would often get interrupted. I remember one time I was looking forward for weeks to playing Mega Man at my friend's sleepover. When it was finally time to get some game time in, the NES got shocked as they plugged it into the socket and wouldn't work. Looking back, I see a whole separate timeline of myself playing through all the Mega Man games disappear because of a power surge and a faulty socket. I never came back until Mega Man 9.
Wait, is he sure about that? If it was a US NES, wasn't there a voltage difference?
Yeah, probably, but I mean, probably even if they had a step-down adapter or whatever, like you can still, those things can still flake out and get shocked.
Oh, wow.
Is he sure that the NES died? Yeah.
Well, it's probably just for the best. Obviously. He saved himself from the disappointment of Mega Man 4 and 5. So in the end, was it really that bad?
I think it was, actually, yeah. I think it was probably terrible.
Well, at least he had malaria to keep him company.
Oh, yeah.
Those are really cool setup. Thanks for your cool setup.
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins. It's a good letter.
See,
seriously.
Nice. If he had, I can't beat anyone. Yeah, whatever, you win.
All right,
What?
Jen. Let's go.
It's
your
turn.
No,
we've been going.
Yeah, counterclockwise.
Counterclockwise.
Yeah.
You're kidding.
Nope.
It's
a mystery, but it's true.
All right. I don't know this one. Chunks Chewbacca, a.k.a. Chi Felipe.
Every time I read that, it cracks me up. I don't know why.
Chunks Chewbacca?
Have you heard from Chunks before?
Yeah, Chunks writes it all the time.
Oh.
He's like...
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hello, Jeremy. I thought I would heed the call. I've been thinking about this since I listened to the podcast, and it occurred to me I can't really pin down my single release gaming memory. Video games seem to suddenly appear in my life from nowhere, but I can't pin down the first time I saw them.
What?
I remember in the early 80s, you know what? I should have done what Chris is doing, which is highlight the pertinent parts. But you said that we were getting started before I was done reading.
Sorry.
Jeremy.
Sorry.
God. I remember in the early 80s playing Atari at my friend's apartment. Apartment? Oh, no. The friend's parents' apartment, I assume. While my friends and my brother played outside. The games didn't really make any sense, and I chalked that up to being so young and lacking the life experience to have a decent understanding. But now I realize it's mostly because 2600 games didn't make any sense. I didn't know E.T. was a bad game. I just thought I was really bad at it. I do remember after the collapse, I think he means the game's collapse, not like a health issue.
Like his lung suddenly.
After my stroke at 7 years old.
It was difficult to play with two hands.
Which made Raiders of the Lost Ark impossible.
Thank God for the ASCII one-handed controller. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Thinking how disappointing it was that video games weren't going to be around as I grew older. Then in 1987 or so, I saw my first NES game. It seemed to me like the NES came completely out of left field, and the bizarre controller with two shiny candy-like buttons and no joystick looked like some beautiful futuristic dream come true. The game was, of course, Super Mario Brothers. That was the game played on a rented NES at someone else's house that plunged me into a life of blissful nerdery. Shamless plug.
a plug with no ShamWow.
No fakery here.
Right.
I'm even in a nerdcore rap group with beats composed entirely on Game Boys running Little Sound DJ. Thank you, video games.
I've heard of Little Sound. Oh, yeah.
And thank you, Jeremy Parrish.
Yeah, no, the whole letter is funnier when you picture it as a woman having a collapse.
Collapsing.
All right, let's bring this bad boy into the home stretch. One last letter from everyone.
Okay.
Maybe at the end, Jen can regale us with some sad anecdotes.
Oh, yeah.
Unless it's just too harrowing for you.
I have a pretty sad family-related anecdote right here that could just roll right into Jen's sad family-related anecdotes.
We'll wrap it up like that.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know. Jen looks kind of despairing.
It's fine.
Oh, let's not do that. Let's not drag you through the mud.
No, it's great.
Let's see what Mathwee Manon has to say.
Good idea.
I really can't remember a time before I played video games. Born in 1980, my first video game system was a TI-99. I have no idea how old I was when we got it, but probably something like 5 or 6, by which point it was completely obsolete, and I think TI had collapsed.
Did he say that?
No, I'm adding that.
Okay.
See, I grew up in Lubbock, Texas, where TI Texas Instruments had its
Ross Perot.
Yeah.
Right.
No, what?
Ross Perot owned Texas Instruments.
Oh yeah, but he didn't live in Lubbock. But they had like a huge manufacturing plant there, so all the schools in Lubbock had TI 99 4As. It was great. Anyway, it was my dad's computer, and he likely purchased it for the version of BASIC that was hardwired into the machine. But all I cared about were the games. My favorite was Hunt the Wumpus, which had just the right amount of tension, graphics, and logical reasoning to ensnare my young mind. The entire game was completely graphical and took place on a board of interconnected circles, which could only be discovered. Somewhere in the maze was the bloodthirsty Wumpus, and the player only had one arrow to use to kill him. An errant shot would end in the beast's maw closing over the screen, which was kind of terrifying to me. Also, the game had a great soundtrack. To this day, whenever I hear In the Hall of the Mountain King, I want to shoot an arrow down a long, winding tunnel. My dad, the math educator, loved the fact that I was using the game to learn deductive reasoning, but I don't think that ever occurred to me other than the triumph I felt when I actually landed the beast. I could blame the fact that I still waste countless hours playing video games on A Link to the Past or on Mario 64, but really the blame probably lies in the trail of blood left by the mythical Wumpus. Mythical Wumpus. Wumpus. Wow, that's really difficult to say. Anyway, Hunt the Wumpus was awesome. I loved that, and Parsec, the official TI 99 4A Defender clone. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Adrian Sandoval, EB Wiz DX, Ebwiz Dix is his name.
Mm-hmm. Just Ebwiz
Unfortunately,
was taken.
Oh, howdy to the knots. What's up? Unfortunately, my first game, Las Vegas Poker and Blackjack for television. I'm so sorry, Adrian Sandoval. Isn't that really exciting to talk about? I hardly even remember it beyond the odd, yellow-skinned and block-headed dealer who would enthusiastically smile at you whether you were taking the pot or losing all your chips. The only real memorable part about this whole thing was that the system itself was a gift to me from an old boyfriend of my mom's, an act that she hasn't forgiven him for is what she told me, parentheses, she wanted a jock.
What?
I think
as a child,
Mom wanted jock.
She wanted him to grow up
as a jock,
right? As the kid who beats up nerds. As opposed to a nerd being beaten
But
up.
now, old boyfriend gave him the game system. Now he's a nerd. It wasn't much, and I'm sure I would have discovered gaming some way or the other. But this really was my first stepping stone.
Well then,
yeah,
cool.
Sorry, Adrian's mom.
That's okay. We're all in the same boat.
Will Mitchell, aka Brillium of Montreal, writes.
That sounds like a nobility title.
Subject line, yes. William Mitchell, Brillium of Montreal. Yes, knighted at the age of 3. I don't know. Okay.
I'll tell you about my video game anecdotes.
Aww.
They're very sexy, and I want to tell you about them.
Has he started doing impersonations on Retronauts? Because I think that's
never.
fantastic.
He has, yes.
Good. I'm glad. Out of his shell.
He has been for the last few years.
Mm.
Don't give me that look. I listen. Jeez.
The very first episode, I imitated a Metroid. Don't you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, there you go.
I was so there. Subject line, in capital letters, gaming memories, : attaching outside things to games. That was my impression of you saying Crystal Caves.
Did I say Crystal Caves like that?
Yes. Crystal.
Huh, I don't remember that.
Sort of. I can't quite capture. You know what? Hey, I'm wondering if you have any stories like this one where tastes, smells, or sounds get attached to a game because they were all experienced at the same time.
Sometimes when I buy stuff off eBay, it comes in smelling like cigarettes. Does that count?
That's why they're supposed to, right, like from a smoke-free or smoke-filled home.
Right.
I always mark them down for that.
Seller did not alert me to fact.
To carcinogenic video game.
Right.
Yep.
Sorry, anyway, please.
For example, the first time I played Battletoads, my friend and I pulled our first all-nighter and ate candy all night, trying to desperately make it through the jet bike scene. We had a bunch of blue raspberry flavored lifesavers.
Lifesavers.
This is a cold reading, okay? And Swedish berries that night. I love the idea of just kids trying to like sugar high themselves.
Oh yeah,
and to like power through.
But that's how you need to play Battletoads.
Right.
You have to twitch.
To this day, I can't eat synthetic blue raspberry flavored candy.
That's probably for the best.
It looks like you had a thought.
I did have a thought.
Without thinking of that damn jet bike scene. I can't play the game without the phantom, cloying residue of corn syrup and sour sugar granules assaulting my memory. Several years later, I got Bjork's. Is this album called Vespertine?
Sure, why not?
Vespertine. I'm not a Bjork fan.
We are not the people to ask.
But Will is. Yeah, laugh it up. Brilliam likes Bjork. Ha ha ha. He said that. And Golden Sun for Christmas.
I don't know. Is that bad?
I don't know. Like, I think he's being a little defensive.
I think Phil Collins is awesome, so I can't make fun of anyone else's taste.
I proceeded to get a fever. Bedridden for days, I listened to the album over and over and played through the game. Again, it was Golden Sun, start to finish. Now the two are inexorably linked, inexorably, pardon me, linked in my brain. One cannot be remembered without the other. I'm wondering if you guys have any similar connections. My girlfriend and her brother used to sing Insane Clown Posse and play Super Mario World. And now she can't look at the game without remembering those dark days of her youth. Hopefully yours aren't so mentally scarring.
I will tell you. My connection is Super Nintendo role-playing games and incense, because my brother was like into incense when he was like when he was like 13, 14, 15 years old, would just burn fucking shitty time, and it was right near where the video games and stuff were. And I mean, also, like, my Super Nintendo mouse has an incense burn on it because he let it burn down and burn the mouse. Did he like use the hole in the mouse to hold up the incense? It was just sitting too close to where the embers were falling. Right. But the smell of incense to me takes me back to like Earthbound. So yes,
that's actually kind of appropriate, I think.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of that trippiness to it.
There is. Yeah,
my connection, the first one that springs to mind is Raspberry Twizzlers and Final Fantasy VII. I don't know why, but for some reason, I had this weird phase when I first bought Final Fantasy VII that I really wanted Raspberry Twizzlers, and I would sit there, and you play the game for hours. And by the end of the night, I would have eaten a whole bag, and I realized after a couple of nights that I felt really sick and it was horrible, and I should never do that again.
Was this like college for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, college is where we suddenly realized.
But see, I don't smoke marijuana or anything, so there's really no excuse for eating a whole bag of Twizzlers in one sitting, except that I was just really engrossed in Final Fantasy VII, like the Midgar section.
But it is that thing where it's like you realize in college, oh my god, I can eat a whole bag of Raspberry Twizzlers if I want to.
I'm a fake adult now.
It wasn't that I wanted to though. It was more like a, how did I do that?
Oh, okay.
What's wrong with me? What did I just do? I didn't know I did that.
Right.
There's no excuse for this.
I've done that.
So anyway, Raspberry Twizzlers makes me think of like little Lego people falling from great heights and surviving.
Oh, okay.
That's what Final Fantasy VII is about. Final Fantasy VII is about people falling from great heights and not being hurt.
Did you see Final Fantasy? Like, I was playing the Final Fantasy 13 demo, and a couple of people were like, no,
you're
they
just like,
fall down.
It's fine.
I'm like, I'll see them later.
Yeah, this is Final Fantasy VII 2. This is not a big deal.
Right, exactly.
And Jim, what about you? Any associations?
Well, you know about the awful Mountain King thing. Like the guy who wants to shoot arrows down a hall every time he hears In the Hall of the Mountain King.
Yeah.
I have In the Hall of the Mountain King associations and Camptown races. Everyone knows Frank is scared of Camptown races.
Yep.
It makes her stomach turn every time that music starts because she's on a timer. The thing about these games is I used to watch my dad play these games, and I saw him really intermittently until his death. When I was 10, he was 35. And I never really had a chance to kind of catch up with him about like the Atari 2600 days. So the only details that I remembered about these games that I had tried to play as a teeny tiny kid and watched him play, I just had details. I knew that in Haunted House you were just a pair of eyes and that bats flew toward you, and that when you beat the game it would play the Twilight Zone theme.
But you didn't know what the name of the game was or anything.
Right. So I always called it the Twilight Zone game. And so my best friend Cassie, as this amazing surprise, bought me an Atari and several lots of 2600 cartridges so I could hunt them down and basically prove to myself that because I had not misremembered the games that I had played with my dad, my memories of my mom and dad were also short.
Ah, okay. Wow.
So that's why.
Wow.
And the last time I saw my dad, I was 9, and we went to the arcade in the movie theater. And I remember watching him just absolutely flip out because there was some like arcade cabinet, and it was a 3D version of Asteroids. I don't remember what the game was actually. Asteroid
I think it might have been Asteroids
3D.
Okay,
yeah.
And my dad was flipping out. He's 34. He's like, "Do you realize what this is?" And he turned to me and he said, and this was the only time we ever talked about video games. He said, "Honey, do you remember Asteroids? This is Asteroids, but look at it. Look at how good it looks." Just like flipping out. And I remember then he actually, because it was in 3D, started talking to me about how everything's cooler in 3D, like how Jaws 3D, you could tell that the shark is rubber, but it scared the crap out of him when he was a kid because
it was the principle of things,
right?
Like the concept of a shark eating you while you swim,
right? So a lot of my game memories are tied. To my birth dad, whom I loved very, very much. And it was really difficult because when I was adopted right after his death, I was 11. I actually wasn't allowed to play video games.
Right.
I wasn't allowed to. And I felt like I was denying my history. Like I wasn't a complete person.
Right.
So...
But they didn't consider PC games video games. They didn't consider the Game Boy video games.
That's right.
Which is why your personal history is so tied up with.
Okay.
Right.
So which is why your personal gaming history from that moment on moves into Sierra games and Metroid 2.
Right. Because
I'm sorry that I wrote a mean review of Metroid 2. By the way.
No, I mean that's how I found
here.
your byline.
Right.
No, that's why I'm
because
here.
You wrote that mean review of Metroid 2. That's why Jen is sitting here with us today.
And someday I was like, someday he's gonna have to look at my face every day. Remember his scathing.
You'll be happy to know that I just bought a copy of Metroid 2 off eBay, and I intend to play it and appreciate it for what it is.
I need to buy it again. It's going to be my 3rd copy or 4th. I don't know.
You should see his copy of Metroid 2 and the other Game Boy games that he bought, because he bought these pristine condition boxed Game Boy games off eBay.
They come with the posters.
That must have cost a fortune.
Amazing.
Yeah, they were a little too expensive, but by God, it's the only box copy of Ninja Gaiden Shadow I've ever seen in my life.
How much was Ninja Gaiden Shadow, if you don't mind me asking?
A lot. It wasn't $100, but
okay.
it was getting in that neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that's not something I can do a lot, but
But for something like that,
it's something I've been looking for a long time.
Yeah.
I have a hilarious other gaming memory. When I say hilarious, I mean it is the most wounding gaming memory
I was going to say,
have.
do you mean really super sad?
See, it is pitch black.
Guys, let me tell you
Most people, when they have Schadenfreude, it's about other people, but with you, it's like it's about yourself.
No,
it's like, guys, let me tell you why I associate Crystallis for the NES with the sound of machine gun fire.
No, like it's so ridiculous and overblown that I get that it's just like, what? Okay, I don't want to oversell. This is the story.
Thanks.
This is the story. My grandfather on my mom's side was my very favorite person until the awful summer that I lived with him. And I was like 4, and I was not his favorite person either.
No.
And we were just in each other's way. I accidentally killed his dog. It was the worst summer of my life. Amazing. Really awful.
You were 4 when you killed his dog by accident?
Yeah, he said, stop running all over the house. The dog has a heart problem. The dog would chase me and woof.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, you'll kill him. And one day, I'm 4 years old, tried to control my little feet, broke into a run. The dog sprang after me and died on the spot. My grandfather walks into the kitchen and shouts, you killed him.
Oh, my God.
And then buried the dog. No. And I'm scared of dogs, actually.
Huh.
And
dogs should be scared of you.
So from that moment on, my grandfather just wouldn't talk to me when I walked into the room, and I was just like this tiny child. And he was tired of having me in the house because obviously I was a dog murderer.
Right, of course, yes.
So one day he puts me and all of my belongings into his van and doesn't tell us where we're going. And he pulls over at a roadside bar in Washington. We drove up from California. And we both walk in, and I see my mom working at the bar. And she, hey, I haven't seen her in a while, and we're really excited. And my grandfather gives me like a stack of quarters, like $5 worth, and he puts them down on the Miss Pac-Man cocktail table. And I sit, and I'm having a lot of trouble, like, seeing the screen because I'm a perspective.
Tiny.
I'm tiny.
Right. You don't have that height.
And I very quickly play through all of the quarters because I'm also not very good at it.
Right. Did you get to the cherry?
Yeah. Did you get a cherry?
Well, I don't know.
No.
Maybe.
You should remember things like this. They're important.
And when I look up, all of my belongings are by the door.
And is Grandpa gone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the first time I played Miss Pac-Man.
Was it the last?
No.
Well, that's good that you didn't hold it against the game.
No, I mean, obviously.
It's good that you're not in therapy because I feel like a psychologist would actually tell you to not play video games. And we don't want that.
No, I mean, Atari games, like just hunting down those Atari games were really important for me. I guess to remember my dad.
Right.
And he's the guy who got me really hooked on games. Damn him. And
what is that? What's that pinball game that you have? What's the name of it? I forget. It's the Atari 2600. It's a pinball game. It's super good.
It is
really
super
rare.
Good. Jesus, I have no idea. I know. I need to
ball.
go.
Does it start with a B?
I need to look at the actual cartridge.
It was silver. I think it was by.
It has a beautiful
what's the name of the
silver
company?
label.
Same company as China Syndrome. Silver label. Can't think of it. But I don't think that has any.
Stuff.
That's not one of the ones you had when you were a kid, right? That's just
No,
you just happened to have that one.
That's just something I really wanted to pick up because I was just like, oh, and then it's really good.
It is really good. No, I played this 2600 pinball game. I can't remember the name of it, Bouncy Ball or something like that. And man, like it's sort of like, wow, I didn't know they could do this in the 2600 kind of stuff.
Yeah.
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 Really good physics is what
it does have shockingly good physics.
Like the graphics not so good. The physics, that's why it's a great game.
Right.
Yeah, I really like your asteroid story because I'm the same age as your father was at that point in time. I'm 34 now, which makes me sad, but you deal with it every year. You deal with it.
Someday I'm going to be older than my dad, who is just like perpetually 35.
But I can see myself, if I had gone ahead and gotten married to the girl I was dating in college, I would have, gone on to live a probably more constructive life than I have now, had a good job, not write about video games, and I would have maybe occasionally played some old video games out of nostalgia, but really not kept up. And this year I would be looking at Bionic Commando and I would be saying to my child, "Do you know what this is? This is Bionic Commando, but look how good it looks."
Right.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because your dad's fundamental premise, which is everything is better when it's in 3D, is actually the antithesis of this very podcast.
Yeah,
I know.
So really I would have been basically the opposite of who I am.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, weird.
That's weird.
So
I'd still be a sarcastic jerk though. Some qualities of life that never change. Anyway, I think we should probably wrap up this section because it was supposed to be like 10 or 15 minutes long, and
it was like 45.
50. Yeah.
Shit.
That's okay. It's been fun.
Yeah.
And I appreciate all the readers for writing in. We still have a huge stack of unread letters, so maybe we'll do some more of this next time.
Thanks to everyone.
In our next episode.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks especially to Chunks Chewbacca and all the other writers who contributed. Chris, are these red or unread?
That's a stack of the red ones are on the top, the unreads are on the bottom.
Right, and then there's some unreads in the stack.
Yeah.
Too.
Neat.
Okay.
Anyway, so that wraps it up for this episode of Retronauts. Next time, I have no idea what it'll be next time. It'll just be one of those things. We'll talk about stuff.
We'll see you.
Yeah, it'll probably be maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. I haven't decided how the show's going to flow these days.
Gross.
Not like that.
Yeah, it's a heavy flow week for Retronauts.
Yeah. So much sadness. Anyway, Jen, thanks for coming in for your final hurrah.
Thank you.
If we're ever in
Jen
Chicago,
Frank,
we'll do a a special Jim Frank episode on the fly.
I'm planning to get a condenser microphone, so do.
Oh, fascinating. You can Skype in.
That would be, well, I know how you feel about Skype, though.
I've learned to accept it.
Okay.
It's mostly Skyping with people I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Well,
you're like, hi, person I've never met. Hi.
What's up?
You should play more Second Life.
Or not. Keep myself pure and safe. Anyway, thanks everyone for listening to this surprisingly lengthy episode. And please tune in to whenever we do another podcast. In the meantime, you can read our stuff, including more reminiscences on the Game Boy and people responding every time we post something on the Retronauts blog, which is at oneup.com/whatever. Go find it on the site. It's awesome. There's a little button at the top that says blogs. That's where we are. Go look. You can follow us on Twitter, too, twitter.com/retronauts. Yeah, I feel kind of dirty saying that, but it's actually, I feel like we're doing a good job with that. We promote our stuff and then any kind of cool retro link we see around the internet.
I think that's true.
Yeah, so if you guys see awesome retro stuff that we should put in the Retronauts Twitter, let us know. We'll share it with the world. In the meantime, we're done with this show now, so goodbye.
ISIS, get the fuck back inside, you dumb bitch.
And here we are. This is the bonus episode. There'll be another one coming later today. It's just a piece of shit from earlier this week.
I think people are going to like the piece of
shit. Oh, yeah,
shit.
it'll be fine. But, you get 2 today. So
that's a bonus, guys. Hey, thank your pal Stav, a man of the people, who wants our shitty episodes out there. Mm-hmm. Because if I drove a half hour, at least hear a sort of riff for an hour, That's how I feel.
Yeah.
We got big fat nuts Jake in the building.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, Adam's gone back to Africa. Mm-hmm. Another little trip to Africa. I was laughing about imagining Steve Harvey doing a very anti-Black Panther joke. He saw Black Panther and he's upset about it. And he's like, they come from a country called Wakanda. What kind of name is that? Why didn't they pick a real black country? How about Zaire? How about Chad? How about Hot Atlanta?
They come from a country called How You Gonna?
Yeah. Why you
How
gonna?
You Finna?
How come? Yeah. Why come?
Oh,
that's
man.
good.
I am from
what kind of name
I am
is
from
that?
Why come? Why come you do this? Beat your kids, Africa. Please beat you.
Well, Africa's ahead of the game because they train their kids to beat themselves. To shoot. Mm-hmm. They go straight from beat to shoot.
Yeah. Sometimes they do it nude.
That's right.
What was that guy? That fucking warlord? The
Idris Elba.
General butt naked. It was Idris Elba. It's the new James Bond.
Everyone's getting bad. They're pissed off that the new James Bond is going to be nude with a bone through his dick. He's shrinking everyone's head.
We heard what you were saying.
Right.
You wanted more representation.
The main villain is just a photographer. The guy's got a camera.
He's got a cigarette lighter.
Trying to give him condoms.
Yeah. What is this cue? It's a pair of pants, James. My name is Toby. That's not really what you're supposed to say, but okay.
That sounds good, man.
Yeah.
I'd watch the fuck out of that.
Yeah. You ever do that thing where you're like, I'm going to watch James Bond movies today, and you watch 5 minutes of one of them, and you're like, oh, these movies suck.
Yeah, they're corny as shit.
Yeah.
They're all bad.
Yeah.
But there's so many of them that it's like, I can't. You want to sit there and consume 45 movies.
And there are those old conical titties that I love so much. With the big puffy nipples.
Yeah.
Which
welcome to the cone zone.
I don't know what happened to the world, but titties aren't like that anymore.
Yeah.
I've seen maybe in my lifetime.
It's just the bras.
But also, I feel like nipples were
change.
puffier. It's probably climate change.
It's like the moon or something.
Yeah.
No,
I feel like it was more.
The bras were cone shaped, so there was more room for a diversity of nipples inside.
That's why Al Gore's so angry.
Yeah.
Because the fucking cone titties went away.
That's right. Tipper's got the most conical ass.
That's why they call it. That's why her name's Tipper.
Yeah.
She fucks him in the ass with her fucking cone tit.
That's if you want to be successful in politics, you have to have family members with retarded names.
That's true.
But this is my name's John. This is my brother Zipperhead. This is Kurnt.
You gotta have a Jim Bob.
Kurnt. This is my son with extreme Down syndrome. His eyes are completely sealed. Where am I? Quiet, Kurt. Daddy's trying to become president. I can't see anything.
Sarah Palin's got Trigger, right?
Trig, yeah.
Trig. What are some other
Trigger?
Doesn't Jimmy Carter
Tag Romney?
Tag, that's right.
What a terrible name.
It's ridiculous.
Tag. Blip. Blap. Boo. These are my Republican children. Blip blap. Crap down. Blip down and bad.
My man Mitt Romney went to a Utah
This is like a
Jazz
toothless
game. Yeah.
A toothless guy on a porch just pointing at wasps, naming them.
That's how
jab, jab, ship, dab.
That's what's in the secret Mormon, like the back of the secret church that women aren't allowed into. That guy's in there. Romney went to a Utah Jazz game.
This is my son, Romney. Gerp.
So he went to a Jazz game, and he was wearing a jersey over like a suit, like a dress shirt tucked into khakis, but also the jersey he picked. The Utah Jazz, they have so many great players. There's 2 white players. He picked the one that was the best one is Joe Ingles, who's Australian. He didn't even pick him because he's an immigrant. He picked fucking John Stockton's son, who they only signed because of nepotism, who has never played at all.
He's never played any basketball.
He's literally they just signed him at the end of the season. He didn't play at all in the series. They don't even sell that jersey. Yeah. He had to have the whitest member of the Jazz team custom made. Yeah. He couldn't wear any other jersey.
Oh, he's my favorite player. Oh, very much so. I enjoy his.
He looks like
there's something about him. I don't know what it is, but I.
Such a smart player.
Yeah. The only thing better would be if his name was Blurp. Blurp Stockton. Yeah.
Yeah. Romney.
Hornhole. Oh, this is my son Hornhole. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, he was conceived on Nantucket.
Mitt's crazy though. He's like his dad is from Michigan, right? But they were in Mexico first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that is the funniest clip of all time.
Have you ever seen that clip?
No.
Oh, you haven't?
It's from like the 2012. He's like campaigning and he's just taking a picture with all these black people and he's posing with them and then he goes, who let the dogs out?
His racist inner monologue just slipped out.
He's trying to fucking like relate to them.
Yeah. Who
let the dogs out?
Who let the dogs out?
Dude, that's my favorite shit, man. Like when McCain was like, "Thank you, Daddy Yankee" and shit.
Yeah.
Like try to fucking slum it with black people for a day.
Thank you, Daddy Yankee. My favorite part about John McCain is apparently he calls his wife a cunt all the time.
Hell yeah.
That fucking rules.
Listen, you fucking cunt.
He calls people chinks all the time.
Yeah.
Shit. And he's just like, I'm not apologizing.
I mean, honestly, if you've been in that fucking prison that long, I feel like you get a pass.
Well, he gets a pass for the chink thing, kind of, because he has an explanation for it. But the cunt thing is just like.
Well, they were all female guards.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
they were all Chinese female guards in Vietnam.
And they were all his wife.
Yeah, they were all his wife.
He was married to all of them. Listen, you fucking cunt.
Listen, you cunt chink. I love you so much. I never want to leave this place. I hope they don't rescue me.
He was bad at flying planes, though, right? Like I know.
Trump is right about that.
Trump is actually right that he sucks at flying planes. He only got to do it because his dad was like in the Navy
Slippy
or something.
Was always fucking yelling at him.
I like people that don't get captured.
That is such a good burn.
Yeah,
just like you've had such a harder life than me. I have just waltzed into being rich by being racist to black people.
He fucking rules. He rules.
Yeah, he's so funny.
There's nothing better. There's nothing more endearing than unchecked, unapologetic privilege.
It's got to be undeserved.
To a point where it's like when was it Eliza Schlesinger went on that rant and she was like, I grew up upper middle class and I fucking stayed that way through hard work. And that whole rant about how fucking lazy people are.
Dude, they all do that shit.
Yeah.
Every fucking rich bitch with like free rent in the city is just like, I earned this.
Work
you didn't
harder.
work hard enough or whatever.
Yeah.
The best people are people who just fucking own it. I got this roommate. I live with this black guy that's just like a Trump Republican.
Hell yeah!
But he owns like this custom made jacket that's got this like severed Trump head on the back.
Whoa.
When he told me he was a Republican, I was like, well, then why do you have the jacket? And he just goes, oh, that's for the girls. He just blatantly lies.
Yeah.
To fuck women in Bushwick, dude.
Yeah,
he's like a hero.
That's the thing you can lie about. You don't really start to get into trouble where you're like, no, I don't have HIV. It's the Charlie Sheen special.
Yeah.
Wait, he's a Republican? Is he poor? Is he rich? What's going on?
Rich.
A Republican.
Is he Diamond and Silk?
The Republiblacks. That's my new podcast, the Republiblacks, where I just do impressions of different black guys that are Republicans, and then see if you get people to listen to it, and then at the end, like a couple months in, it's like. It turns out it's just one white guy. It's a friendless white guy.
Yeah.
Like,
I do love that shit.
Same thing as last time.
I love that shit. Someone was like, I saw a fake account called The Dope Conservative.
Yeah, it's always like that in comment sections. It's like, as a black man, I'm always wondering why. Why we like to disrespect the police. I'm black myself, and I think it's disgusting what those people. I mean, we do.
Those Diamond and Silk people just got like straight up paid.
Yeah,
and I think they just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
like if you just opt out and just stop giving a fuck about politics altogether, pay me enough money, I'll say whatever.
Oh yeah, that's where we're at.
Fucking care
we're
anymore,
a psyop.
Yeah.
We've been paid by the Trump administration.
Yeah, I'm actually a U.S. Army project to see how jacked a podcaster can get.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be so fucking funny if it came out that we literally were like part of the alt-right? Like we're like on someone's payroll to...
Well, so many people probably...
I mean, we literally are on...
You're
get
right.
Paid by...
We're ground funded by them. Yeah, it's grassroots alt-right, actually, if you think about it.
All alt-right stuff is grassroots.
That's true.
Trump was a grassroots president.
Yeah, I guess he literally was.
Yeah, I just want to go back to like just not caring, which I'm already there, I think.
Yeah.
After the Me Too thing, it's like, all right, I'm done.
Why?
I'm done. I've been through enough of these like get mad 'em ups that happen online that it's like, yeah, I don't.
What's the?
I feel like I'm thoroughly just not.
What would have to happen for you to care again?
Another 9/11.
Then you would like a tear would well up in your eye, and you would suddenly get patriotic or something.
No, I don't think I'd fall victim to that.
It'd be cool if you started getting into like country music and shit.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I could do.
Weird fucking turn. She's got a brain tumor late in life that turned you into a fucking hick.
That would be awesome.
Yeah,
that'd be funny.
You go Dennis Miller. Wasn't Dennis Miller liberal before 9/11?
Yeah, a lot of people were.
It's hilarious.
That's what
9/11 broke a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hitchens was fucked up by it.
Damn, Hitchens isn't even American.
Yeah, I know.
The fuck does that British piece of shit care?
No, there's a lot of people that just started hating Muslims and they couldn't.
Yeah. It's the Islam thing. Yeah. When you watch Wild Wild Country, there's a clip. It doesn't credit him, but you can hear his voice. It's him like narrating a video of like one of their weird nude fucking cult freakouts, and it's just like these savages completely driven insane by the Quran.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of fucking hippies.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went crazy. I don't know. Who else?
I can't. My dad, I guess. He
Oh, really?
Yeah, he started disliking.
My parents did not give a fuck. They did not like Greek people. Just didn't care at all. Like everyone was like sad for a sec, but
yeah,
they don't fuck. They didn't hate Muslims any more than they did before.
It made me like Muslims.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool. It was like
they're very resourceful.
Well, I was pretty
like
convinced that Israel did it. So I mean, I didn't really see how Muslims are involved. It's clearly the Jews. None of them were in the towers that day.
Oh yeah, they all called out.
Yeah. All the Jewish.
I
people.
love that one, dude. That's the best one. All the Jews that worked at the World Trade Center took their vacation day that day.
Yeah, they did a flash mob.
Fuck. Damn.
Oh boy.
You think Trump's gonna try and do a 9/11, just fuck it up so bad?
No, but he. I mean, there's gonna be North Korea is going to give up its nuclear program. There's like it's a peace treaty. Yeah, it's disarm it. There's going to be unified Korea, and it's going to be Trump. Trump did it.
That is so funny.
That's the funniest shit ever. It's just breaking people's brains.
Yeah.
I've seen people try to like argue their way out of that. Well, it's like actually, he shouldn't get the credit for it because somebody was like, somebody on Facebook was like, actually, I think the credit should go to Kim Jong-un's sister.
No, really? Were they trolling?
No, it was just some fucking idiot, man. Everyone's politics just broke out.
Yes, women are incapable of being authoritarian nut jobs. So there's no way that Kim Jong-un's sister is not just like me, a woke American girl.
She's empowering women by killing people and feeding them to dogs. For other women to rise up.
Feeding people to dogs in Korea, that's the balance. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I see where you're going with it. Yeah.
Just
the yin and the yang.
Right, exactly.
Usually
you eat a certain amount, you gotta...
Exactly. Like if we were feeding people to cows here, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Absolutely. That's what we should do. We should round up all the Indian people and feed them to cows. It's what they want.
That is true. That is in the... Hare Krishna book.
The Hare Krishna.
It's in the Hare Krishna book.
What is their book? Not the Kama Sutra.
Clifford the Big Brown Dog.
There's one though, right? What's the Bhagavad Gita? What the fuck is that?
Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah, what is that?
Bhagavad Gita.
In a Bhagavad Gita, baby. So stupid.
What's the Inagata Devita? Isn't that the Hindu text? The sacred text?
I don't know.
Hey, Mom, you got the Bhagavad Gita.
There's different Bhagavads, and they're all like, I think that's what Hinduism is like. They're like religious texts, I think. Bhagavad Gita is the one that has that Oppenheimer quote in it.
Oh, yeah.
And become death, destroyer of worlds.
That's pretty badass quote, actually.
It's like, Oppenheimer was like, when we finally make this bomb, I'm going to say that shit. And then, 4 months later, they made the bomb, and then he was like, I've become death, destroyer of worlds. People were like, damn, dude.
He had it in his
Put that on
drafts.
a plaque.
Yeah.
He's like, I've got the sickest tweet planned.
I'm going to drop this shit. It's going to go off.
when we kill all those Japanese people.
He was a fucking like Louis J. Gomez monster.